All right, I will be starting the 11th meeting of the Community Protective Services Committee. I'd like to welcome everybody in council chambers, staff in front of me, members in the gallery of the public, members of council and visiting members. I'll recognize you in a second. Please check the city website for additional meeting details upon information. The City of London is situated on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenapewauk, and Attawandaron. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. The City of London is currently home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit today. As representatives of the people of the City of London, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. The City of London is committed to making every effort possible to provide alternate formats and communication supports for meetings upon request. To make a specific meeting to this meeting, please contact cpsc@london.ca or dial 519-661-2489, extension 2425. I'd like to recognize members of the committee in chambers. I have to my right, Councillor Cuddy from the east. To my right, Councillor Jerry Pribble to the north. To my right, Councillor Sam Trusso to the central north area. Myself and Councillor McAllister is going to be joining us in an hour's time, so he'll be a little bit late. He's given me notice. Visiting members, I have Councillor Corinne Robin from the northwest. To my left, from the south, Councillor Pelosa, and South Central, Councillor Frank. I have online the Deputy Mayor from the east, Sean Lewis, and I believe the Mayor is on the site today, or online today. That's City at Large. All right, looking for any disclosures of pecuniary interest. I see none. All right, so that leaves us to our consents. I have a few. I have no pull requests for my consent items, so I'm just going to look to members of committee if they do want to pull anything. None? Okay, I do know that there's some questions on these consents, so I'm just a second. I'm going to get a motion to approve the consents, but I am going to go through one at a time just to see if there's any questions on the consent. Councillor Frank, yes.
Thank you. Although I'm not a member of this committee, I was hoping to pull 2.7 as I submitted a draft motion.
Looking for a member to pull that. Councillor Pribble, Councillor Cuddy, okay. I can pull 2.7. That's a Thames Pool update. So I'm looking for a motion to move consent items 2.1 through to 2.6.
Also move, Chair.
You'll move and the rest? Okay. Seconded by Councillor Pribble, okay. All right. So that's been moved and seconded. Okay, let's go through the report. So, like I said, I'm going to go through all the items except for 2.7, just for potential any questions or anything like that. So 2.1, that's the third report of the Accessibility Community Advisory Committee. Any questions, comments? Okay, that's 2.2 is next. That's the fourth report of the Environmental Stewardship and Action Community Advisory Committee. Questions or comments? Councillor Pribble, please go ahead.
Thank you. Make a comment. This advisory committee is requesting an approval from this committee in terms of some budgetary requirements. So I think that that's a thing that we should be dealing with now.
That is correct. It does have some recommendations from that. We can discuss that item. And I just do want to make note that all the consent items that are before us right now, every single one where we ask questions does count towards your 5 minutes of time, just so you know. So I'll give the chair back, or give the microphone back to you.
Okay, if you look at, I think I don't have it in front of me, but second or third page, and they're requesting to approve their budget proposals and also use last year's to this year's budget for those stickers and other informational material. So I think that's a thing that we should be approving now or discussing if anyone has any objections, or if we just approve it.
Thank you, Councillor. So the motion in e-scribe has been pulled out to approve. It can be approved here and then resolved at council.
Okay, so I would like to move that recommendation.
It's part of the consent. It is moved already. Okay, looking for any other speakers or comments for this item, 2.2? Okay, moving to 2.3. That's the municipal requests from within the service area to access the W12A landfill for waste disposal. I know Councillor Pelosi has some questions, but I need to look at members of committee first. So Councillor Pribble, please go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair, to the staff. I did see in the report, it states that we don't have this policy in place, but in terms of the other municipalities, is this going to be potentially on regular basis, or is this going to be ad hoc, or how do we control it if we are approaching the future from other municipalities?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Stanford.
Through the chair, at this point, over the last handful of years, we've had no municipality approach us with respect to the ability of coming to W12A landfill site. Should that occur, this is the process that we would actually follow through, and each one would be reported on to committee and council. So there would be a way to track very easily the number of municipalities that have not only requested, but were also approved to come to W12A landfill site.
Thank you, Councillor.
And from the report, I just want to make clear as well, do we have actually, let's say, if we have an issue with the capacity, can we actually refuse it? Or under the provincial law, we actually, as a more of a major area municipality with this capacity, we would have to actually accept it and we have no choice of refusing it?
Thank you. Mr. Stanford.
Through the chair, so it'll be a two-part answer. Municipalities within the service area, and there's 5 counties that would be eligible, council would have full control over whether they come in or not. What can occur, though, under ministerial order, that would be the provincial government, should there be, for example, a landfill crisis in the province of Ontario, they do have the authority, because they have the powers over the landfill site with respect to the environmental compliance approval. They could make a decision on our behalf that was not satisfactory to council. That is the powers they do have, but based on our understanding, the provincial government has not had to go that route for, I believe, well over 25 years.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you very much. No more questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Looking to members of committee. And I do understand we can go through all of the consent items, but I did break them down. But I will just go quickly through because I do know that there were some questions, so I just wanted to make it easier for everybody. But I do know if there's no members of committee that need to speak to this, I'm going to go to Councillor Pelosi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple questions on this one, and I do appreciate Mr. Stanford's time ahead of time. Realizing we haven't had a report on this before, and it will help govern it going forward should requests come in. Under 1.3, so on page 11, being the City of London rule, and outlining what decisions we might make for types of material that we might allow. At what time would that decision be made? Is that something we do now, or is that in the future, should a municipality make a request, we can have that discussion? Realizing London's done great efforts at 60% waste diversion, doing our green bin program. Residents have been happy about trying to mitigate some smells and odors and turkey vultures, and some of their concerns are like, if we're doing the good job of diverting waste, are we going to allow others just to bring all their compostable materials here into our landfill?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Stanford.
Through the chair, on page 12 of the report at the top, we do have actually a specific clause that addresses this item. And it talks about mandated programs from the provincial government for waste diversion would have to be in place in any municipality that wishes to come to the W12A landfill site. And then we also have a part B that it's one to have a program in place or programs in place. There has to be active promotion of those programs and active participation in those programs, so they're not just sleight of hand type things. So they're active involvement. So we would use these as our guiding principles Should a municipality wish to approach us, we would do a deeper dive into their waste diversion programs, but we're not recommending anything above mandated programs by the provincial government. It'd be a little more difficult to figure out how to really regulate something that there really is no benchmark for that.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Follow-up question. I'm on page 17 under guiding principles 4.1B, and it cites that a portion of the tipping fee revenue will continue to go into the landfill community enhancement and mitigation measures program. Realizing later in today's reports under proposed changes to the W12A landfill committee community enhancement and mitigative programs, staff is looking at enacting an area enhancement fund and an enhanced public property maintenance program from tipping fees as well. Would this be in conflict or would encompass those other programs as well, just since it's a schedule for a bylaw?
Thank you, Councillor. Go ahead.
Through the chair, we would view this as being in addition to. This is not to replace anything, so if waste comes from other municipalities through approval, we would have the Community Mitigative Measures Fund topped up the way it is currently being topped up, but we'd also then wish to allocate 10 additional dollars that could be brought into any of the other funds that are listed here for additional work around the W12A landfill.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Through you to staff, is this report going out to the public liaison committee for the W12A landfill, or how would they be made aware of this? Just, I know they have questions about things being trucked in and what we're doing and when we're doing it. Just looking for that flow of information out to the community.
Thank you. Mr. Stanford.
Through the chair, all members of the PLC have received a copy of this report by email. They've been made aware of it. They've received the agenda as well for the whole committee. Because this is something, we actually are meeting with the PLC in about a week and a half's time, so happy to raise it then, but it is not something that we've actually put out for consultation, in part because this is something where there's really no active files. It's actually getting council future ready in a case that, so, but if there are comments that come forward, these are the types of things there that could be reviewed as part of a number of different opportunities to come before committee and council.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. I appreciate knowing that residents already have it, and that will be a agenda item at the upcoming PLC meeting, as I do hope to attend, assuming that we're back from AMO in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. For this item, any other comments, questions? Okay, I'll go to the next. So the next is 2.4 Order Management Technology Update and Single Source EnviroSuite Limited. Any comments or questions from members of committee? Councillor Pribble, go ahead. You have 3 minutes, 32 seconds.
Just a quick comment, strongly recommend this, and again, based on the meetings we had with the committee, and I'm quite sure the councillor from the ward, Pelosa, she would support it 100% as well. So strongly supporting it to continue this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Members or visiting members, or online? Okay. Next is the Canada-Ontario Community Housing Initiative and Ontario Priorities Housing Initiative approval of Ontario Transfer Payments Agreements and Investments. Looking for comments from members of committee. Visiting members? Online? Okay. Next item, the single source procurement of the Zamboni level ice systems. Looking for any comments or questions. Okay. Thames Pool has been pulled, so that leaves us at 2.8. That is the single source London Fire Department procurement of a service vehicle. Looking for comments from members of committee. Councillor Pribble, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to the staff, it's actually a combination 2.8, 2.6, and I had two questions. In the 2.6, we have in the recommendation A, the entire amount. 2.8, we do not have it, but then in the source of funding, there is an amount that's listed, $259,000. So I just want to verify, because it's not in this summary, if that's the amount that we are discussing.
Thank you, Councillor. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. And through the chair, specifically in 2.8, that is correct. We will go forward and negotiate the final price. So this will be an upset limit for the outfitted vehicle. So the next step is to go back to Canoe, negotiate the price, and then that will be what we sign off for.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, and one follow-up. In 2.8, we do have a clause E when we authorize the mayor and clerk. 2.6, we do not have it, and I was wondering if it's the only difference is because of maybe the amount?
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you, that is correct.
Thank you very much. No more questions.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay. Last question, last call for that? Okay. That leads us to our last item for the consent. That's 2.9, the standard form agreement for approval of infrastructure grant application and conditional approval to enter into a child care and early years funding agreement. Looking for members of committee for any comments or questions. Visiting members online. Okay. I think we can call the question for the consents.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Okay, so that leaves us to schedule items, which we have none. So the next would be items for direction. We're going to start with 4.1. I believe we have a staff presentation. So just conferring with staff that you're ready for that, and let me know, and I'll let you know when you have your 5 minutes, when your 5 minutes begins. Okay, it looks like Mr. Stanford is ready to go. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a rather short presentation just to highlight the key elements that are in the report before you as 4.1. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, from a location perspective, W12A landfill site is about 7 kilometers south on Wellington, south of the 401. Or if you're heading along 401, you would be heading east on Manning, and about 3 kilometers would get you to the landfill gate. And as you zoom in closer, this is in your package, the landfill site is in the dark red line. You can see the slashed red line with a dark black line. That includes the buffer area around the landfill site. The dark red line actually is the same disposal area as the previous approval, because we're doing a vertical increase as part of the expansion. You then see a slashed area in red with a thin red line around it. That's referred to as the resource recovery area. Then after that, there's just a number of other features around the W12A landfill site, just for your benefit. And of course, these maps are in your package. The package that is before you today has been sort of in development over a number of years. We've gone out for public consultation twice. We've also chatted with our public liaison committee on a regular basis, basically since 2000, on matters that are important to the community. So what we actually have before you today is the first major review since 2009 of our Community Enhancement and Mitigative Measures Program. The following slides, the ones in green represent new initiatives that were not in the previous program. One of the most important ones, I believe, is that we are recommending a review every 4 years of this program, not waiting the almost 20 years that we have waited this time, or 15 years. We believe as a landfill develops, concerns may occur or arrive, new concerns, or concerns that were perhaps at that point in time didn't quite develop the way people thought. So a 4-year review, we believe, is quite important, particularly because the landfill site, the expansion, is planned for 25 years. We also believe, with all the initiatives that are being added into this package, that we come back on an annual basis to committee, report on the various projects, and highlight what has occurred for the expenditures that are being proposed. A couple of items that you see now in the dark color, black color, these are items that are in the existing package, but in the case of this one on the screen right now, we have made some minor adjustments to what is in the current program on how we actually measure the rings around the landfill site. We're just making some minor adjustments associated with what's now a slightly different buffer zone. The Property Value Protection Program. There were 7 homes that were previously in the program that were part of a visual screening procedure where they would only be eligible after a report was completed to determine through the visual screening process whether there in fact was a visual challenge associated with the property looking at the landfill site. We've decided, since we are going up, that that screening process should be removed. As a result, 7 properties now, excuse me, 7 properties qualify for the Property Value Protection Program. And what that program is all about is that should they sell in the future and they're part of the right of first refusal program, which is the next initiative on your screen, the municipality has first opportunity of purchasing that property should we desire, or we pay if there's any difference between real estate appraisals on the property. We're protecting the value of the property if the landfill site were not there. So that applies to a number of homes. We also have what's referred to as the Community Mitigative Measures Fund. 1 minute, okay. And as part of that, we collect money from all tons that come into the landfill site, and that money sits in a pot. That pot is now at 1.3 million. We are recommending some changes that it be capped at 1 million, and some of those funds move to a couple of the other initiatives that you'll see shortly. We're recommending no changes for the waste disposal. Residents south of the 401 do have access to up to 200 kilograms per week. It's about a 40,000 per year benefit. PLC, we are recommending a number of changes to the terms of reference to make it very modern. From a terms of reference perspective, we're also recommending that the committee only meets 4 times per year instead of 6, because a new group has been assigned to the city, a landfill operating committee through our environmental approvals process. We must set this up, and it must include Indigenous communities. So we're still staying with 6 meetings, but we're basically dividing them across 2 committees, and there will be a relationship between the 2 committees through the chair and vice chair of the PLC. We will be asking and extending an invitation for them to sit on this particular operating committee with the Indigenous communities. And the last 2 items then are very new funds. One, to increase the amount of investment in the area south of the 401. This would be controlled by committee and council. It would be programs put in place with your knowledge and reported on each year. And it would be used basically to help encourage other investments in the area to create more of a community environment. And then the very last program would be an enhanced public property maintenance program near the landfill site. Many of the areas are under sort of a rural service frequency. We would look to increase that wherever we can to address some of the property management concerns that have been brought to our attention. And Mr. Chair, my last slide, to keep within probably 5.5 minutes, thank you, is just, this is the start of the discussion. It is coming to you today to be released to the community. There's a meeting with the PLC, the Public Liaison Committee, on April 21st. After council on the 26th, we would actually send this out and make sure residents within 2 kilometers of the landfill site were aware that this process is underway and how to participate in that, and then a series of additional dates would be selected. Thanks, Mr. Chair, for a few extra seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Sanford. It's not a problem. Okay. I am looking for a motion to be moved by Councillor Cuddy, seconded by myself. Okay, Councillor Pribble. Okay, looking for comments, questions. I do have Councillor Pelosi. She has requested questions, but I'm going to go to members of the committee first, and then I will look towards you once I've exhausted those. So, members of committee, any questions or comments? Councillor Pribble.
Thank you, Sir Chair, to the staff. Excuse me. Mr. Stanford, it says on that slide 28 properties currently. Has the city practiced or purchased any properties during the last so many years? Or would these be the only 28?
Thank you. Mr. Stanford.
Through the chair, I think our total purchase is around 22, and there may have been a few properties purchased that were just prior to 2006. So the number that you're suggesting, I would just have to flip into the report, is around that number. There have not been any recent properties purchased, but these are items that do come up from time to time, and we have a procedure to bring that forward to committee and council.
Thank you. Counselor?
Okay, thank you. Slide 7, the title, is it no change or no charge?
Thank you. Mr. Stanford?
Through the chair, it is no charge, and the reason we have it listed as that is that the residents within that area are allowed to deliver to the landfill site up to 200 kilograms of garbage per week without charge.
Thank you. Counselor?
Thank you for that, and I do have some questions regarding timelines, but I believe that probably this board council will have the same questions. If she doesn't, I'll go back. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Other members of committee, questions, comments? Okay. Counselor Pelosi, please go ahead.
Thank you. Counselor Pribble could have kept using up his time because now I'm eating up my time. Question 3 to staff. Again, I appreciate Mr. Stanford's time ahead of time. For me, what MPAC is to the city for tax collection, this is the version for waste. I've been waiting for this report since 2018 from the community, so really appreciate that. It would be an ongoing, more frequent updates to committee and council to understand this. I'll start under the recommendation part C, looking at 2 kilometers for a notification range for the report. We had this type of issue with the biosolids report that sometimes out there, the city already owns a lot of the land that we bought as a buffer around it, looking to see if that 2 kilometers can start from not just the landfill property, but the property that we actually own. Sometimes we just notify ourselves because we brought up the property. Question 3 to staff.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Stanford?
Through the chair, we're happy to extend that extra distance to make sure we're including everyone. We're looking at in the order of about 250 properties that we previously been engaged with as part of the environmental assessment, so happy to extend that a little further.
Thank you. Counselor?
Okay. I'm not serving on this committee. Would I need a motion, or can staff just make that change in this case? Or if not, I'll bring a motion through council.
I'll look to staff before I ask the committee for a motion. Do you need a motion for that, or is that something you can do?
Mr. Chair, we'd be happy just to include that. We prefer to have a broader audience on this one than to hear from them in a different way, so we're happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. Counselor?
Thank you. A question, we discussed it earlier as we look at the mitigation and the impacts this type of facility has out there as potentially. I just want committee and the community to be aware that as council is looking at potentially moving a biosolid processing facility out across the street from this facility, if any of those mitigation measures, because we're just going to be shipping human waste instead of garbage, could be part of the catchment area of that conversation, realizing that that plan with Mr. Oderkirk is also a ways out, and now this report will come back every so many years to us of just, would that be part of the conversation, or how to have part of that being looped in?
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Stanford?
Through the chair, through this process, we wish to, as staff, focus on the landfill site because that is what we know the most, and we've been there since 1977. So essentially, we know about the neighbors, we know about the community. Knowing that anything to do with the biosolids facility in the future is something to come forward for committee and council, and it is a number of years out. That would be actually a very good example of why we would want to come back about every 4 years. These are things that we're just not aware of right now. So one thing we can commit to, though, is we will hear, I just know that during this process, about that item, we will keep track of that. But I'd rather, if unless there's a change at committee and council, not have that the focus of this particular one, because I see that as being important, very important, but not part of resolving this one and getting this one completed.
Thank you, Mr. Stanford. Counselor Pelosi?
Thank you, and I recognize that both are mandated and governed differently through the province. I also recognize that someone's going to have a well-deserved retirement soon, and was afraid of losing some institutional knowledge if we didn't have that conversation publicly as we move forward, because Jay served many years and the residents are very familiar with him, and I know that not all their concerns get written down. or come as formal motion. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate that this is going to go back out to the community. You'll see that there's a long list on page 232 of some of their feedback. I would say my only concern, I appreciate that there'll be other mitigation funds that, for area improvement, that you've seen in the Area Enhancement Fund, and item 11 being the Enhanced Public Property Maintenance Program, that garbage does come off trucks or people ditch things as they drive out there, that residents do feel that impact. My only concern would be, I recognize that their fund is over $1 million, that it's at 1.3 that staff said, that the community, I'm fine with it being capped at $1 million, just the community and the PLC have an opportunity to spend that 0.3, as there are projects that I'm sure they could be enticed to do a vote on and get rolling to serve the community well, versus that funds just being removed. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pribble, you have lots of time. 4 minutes, 29 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you, Sir the Chair, to the staff. And when I look at it, by the way, I do see this personally from not being a neighbor there, not living there, as a very positive step forward. But I did want to ask, I also see very valuable the going into the 4-year review of this. So I think that's a great positive recommendation. My question is, these recommendations, were they discussed or presented to the committee prior? And if they have not, will there be any opportunity before the council as they have a meeting? But what process would, if they haven't been consulted or informed prior in the discussions, will they have the opportunity to do anything before the council? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll go to Mr. Stanford.
Through the chair, we've been listening to the committee for many, many years. So we believe that we've captured many of their comments, and probably not all, but many, as we package this all together. So we have not specifically gone back to them with this package. Our goal was to listen and then come to you and council first. Between now and council, I'm not sure what opportunities exist. I rely on the Deputy City Clerk to assist in that regard. But part of all this has been set up to go out to the public with complete information and other input from committee and council. So that is how this has been staged, and that's why a planned public participation meeting before you is all part of this, to make sure that those opportunities are not lost. In fact, they're encouraged by laying out a framework like this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. No more questions.
Thank you. Okay. Last call. Members of committee, visiting members. Online? Okay, let's call the question.
Shasta votes yes.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Okay, that leaves us to our second item. We have a motion from Councillor Pribble. That's with respect to the seasonal time period of overnight parking bans in comparable municipalities. So I will look to Councillor Pribble for a motion, and I'll look for a seconder.
Should I speak to the motion now, or are you going to look for the seconder first?
Councillor, if you just put the motion on the floor, get your seconder, and then I'll go right to you to speak to it.
Perfect. I would like to table this motion at this time.
Okay, moved by Councillor Pribble, seconded by Councillor Cuddy. Okay, motion's on the floor. Looking for a speakers list, and I'll go to Councillor Pribble first. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair and colleagues. As on September 29th, the staff is going to be coming back with us on updates on certain parking policies, and I discussed this prior. This can be included in the same time frame, and I would like us to revisit some other municipalities. They have cut the winter period to a shorter time, and I would like the staff, currently we are not approving any changes. Currently we are approving a motion for the staff to come back to us and to revisit the options of shortening and to include the consideration specific time, November 15th to March 31st. Now, specifying November 15th to March 31st, I really would like us to consider that. Having said that, it's not kind of only this or currently what we have. So that's the motion that's on the table currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I have the mayor online with his hand up, so I will go to Mayor Morgan. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councillor Pribble for bringing this forward. Having been on council since 2014, I would say this is something that has come up multiple times through the course of my time on council, and I think it's appropriate to review this. We've made a number of changes over the years, and I mean, sometimes those changes have gone well, sometimes they haven't. Sometimes we've looked at, street level exemptions, and I think we've been building towards something that works for most Londoners. The only addition that I would have to Councillor Pribble's motion is if we're looking at getting some information back, one of the things that I've heard over my time as a councillor in the second term, and then some of the information that comes into my office, is the idea of passes for only 15 days seems like an unnecessary restriction. And I think that one of the options that should be brought back by our staff is what it looks like to eliminate those, keeping in place all of the other street by street level restrictions that may exist within the current structure. The only thing I'd be interested in looking further into is just getting rid of the 15 days. I would still want people to actually register so that we can put out information about having people get off the street when the plows need to go out. But I don't understand the arbitrary number of 15, and I think a lot of people who've given feedback to me don't understand it either. So I don't know if I'd need to add an amendment to say, let's look into this too when staff report back so we can see what those changes look like and be in a position to make those changes should the committee agree at that time. But that's something that I'd like to add into Councillor Pribble's direction, and I'd be happy to make an amendment if I need to, see if there's committee support for that. And again, I'm not saying we make that decision today. I'm saying we bring that information back so that we can make that decision when we get the report back as one of the possible options. But if we don't make it as an option, we're not going to have a chance to make that adjustment in time for this year.
Thank you, Mayor. I see Councillor Pribble's hands up for a second, I believe.
I'm just going to say that I'm certainly in support of that. So I will either second the mayor's proposal, or if it's a friendly one, the clerk can incorporate it. No, I'm seeing no, so that means I would second it, yes.
Okay, we have a seconder for the amendment. I just want to go to staff to confer to ensure that this is, you need an amendment for that and that you can do that work within the time frame that we see.
Through the chair, I'm just going to revisit this wording for a moment. So we are going to be completing a holistic review here, so happy to consider that as part of this review. If you have anything that's very specific, so what I was hearing from the mayor was actually looking at eliminating the passes. So if that's something you want us to consider, just so that it's very clear, I would suggest adding that language.
Okay, I'm going to just read it out, the amendment, and then I'm going to go to the mayor and Councillor Pribble for just consideration, and we'll go from there. So I'm just going to read out an amendment that I have here that's been drafted up by the clerk, and it's that the motion be amended to include a new part as follows: that civic administration be directed to eliminate the 15-day limit on overnight in advance of the 2025-2026 winter season, it being noted that individuals would continue to register a vehicle that is parked overnight during the overnight parking ban. So just looking for the mayor and...
Yeah, so I don't think it needs to be that descriptive to have civic administration eliminate it. I think civic administration bring forward the option to do so when they report back. So we'd make the decision at that time, not in this moment. So it's really just including that, as Mr. Mathers just described, as part of the review so that we would have that as a possible option should we want to proceed at that time. And again, we can have a debate, get some feedback, and people will weigh in their opinions. It's something that I've heard people ask for us to consider. So I'm just looking for it to be part of the report back and the option there on the table for us, not decide in this moment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Just give us a second. Okay, I'm going to read out what the clerk's drafted up while you're speaking there. So the motion be amended to include that civic administration be directed to eliminate the 15-day limit on overnight parking passes as part of the report back with respect to this matter, it being noted that individuals would continue to register a vehicle that is parked overnight during the overnight parking.
That sounds fine to me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And seconded by Counselor Pribble. Okay, Counselor Pribble, you had your hand up. I saw Counselor Pelosa's hand up. I'm just going to go to members of committee first, and I'll be with you in a second. No questions? Okay, and Counselor Rahman, you do want to speak? Okay, I'm going to go to Counselor Pelosa first. Please go ahead, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll say maybe this is one of the problems of working with staff behind the scenes and reports not coming forward quickly enough. Had been working with Mr. Katolik for some time regarding this issue. At that time, it was requested that I hold off to said report. Now this is contrary to what I was working on with staff. So I guess I learned a lesson there. I also had residents questioning the 15-day pass. Some of them had a large surplus of vehicles, and they would just keep rotating who was on the street. And then they'd run out of 15 passes for each vehicle. And so obviously, many vehicles per that driveway. Concerns were still around the parking of the vehicles on the street, that they would all be on the street, and snow clearing happens not just at night, but throughout the day, that those vehicles would always be there. Part of the concerns Mr. Katolik was looking into was to expand the 15 passes, because people still need to park somewhere, but looking to make sure that we still did cost recovery, because someone needs to go out, inspect it, run the system, issue the passes, and give out notices. So that was part of my pass too, is making sure that the program could be self-sustaining, as someone had to monitor it, in addition to people who don't follow it or didn't have the correct passes to still go out and do it. So my concern with the motion is that it's just to eliminate it versus expand the program or looking at any cost recovery. So I don't know if staff could speak on that. I know there's a different direction on the floor now, and I don't know where Mr. Katolik's information was. I was supposed to be coming back shortly, because I didn't see it before the departure.
Thank you, Counselor. I did hear a question embedded in there, so I'm going to go to staff to see what staff's response is.
Yeah. Through the chair, so yes, I am aware that there was work already underway to bring forward a report, so I think that's why we would say this is very timely to come forward, because it would allow us to make bring something forward before we get to that November 1st deadline. So there has already been work that's been completed, so that's very complimentary to it. As far as cost recovery, anything, as you've noted, that these passes are free, so there isn't a cost recovery for that portion at this point. So we would need to ensure that whatever we bring forward has a discussion on the costs associated with moving this forward.
Thank you. Counselor?
Thank you. I appreciate that being laid out for a point of consideration of committee and council should the time come. My only last follow-up question is, I know Deputy Mayor Lewis had worked to change the dates to expand the overnight street parking last term of council, and that was well received by residents. And at that time, we were told that the contracts for our overnight street parking coincide with when our snow clearing contracts are issued, and then they follow the dates. Looking to see if we've already issued the snow clearing contract this day, or when that happens, just if we're trying to align our dates. And I'm trying to think if there's also signs coming into the city saying when you can't do seasonal parking on streets, because if there is, we'd have to do a whole sign replacement as well. That would also come at cost.
Thank you, Counselor. Good questions. I'm going to go to Ms. Scheer on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, I don't have the date of the snow clearing contract with me. I certainly can provide that in advance of council, and we can consider both the alignment and the signing and communications as part of the comprehensive review.
Thank you. Counselor?
Thank you. I know it's sweltering heat and we're thinking about snow, but I appreciate that, and I'm happy to get information before council.
Thank you. Okay, I have Counselor Rahman and the Deputy Mayor next on the list, so I'm going to go to Counselor Rahman. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and through you. So first, I want to thank Councillor Pribble and also the Mayor for the amendment on this item. I too have a lot of residents very interested in this topic and have been having ongoing conversations with staff about this. One of the conversations I had been having was around the lower driveway boulevard parking. So in some municipalities, including St. Thomas, they've rolled out a pilot program where during the winter months, you can actually park on your lower driveway boulevard when a winter parking restriction is in place. I'm wondering if we maybe, I don't know if it's could be part of this amendment, or if it could be something that staff could bring back some information on. St. Thomas is in a 2-year pilot. One of the reasons for the rationale for this as well is with multi-generational homes, smaller housing units, and parking densities removed, that this is an opportunity for people to be able to resolve some of the parking challenges, not face tickets during the winter months when there are restrictions. They've put in place a pretty good, easy to template pilot in their city around how to do this. I think from the perspective of a winter parking prohibition, when you have that prohibition and you have to find somewhere to put your car, for people in my ward, especially in newer subdivisions where you have the ability to park it in the lower apron without it impeding the sidewalks and being out of the way of the movement of the snowplows, I think that it could be an option, but I'm just wondering if staff may be able to come back to us with that in the same timeline.
Thank you, Councillor. Looking to staff, I do see the original motion has a municipal scan here for parking bans. Would you be able to incorporate the councillor's comments with the motion as it is, or do we need to make a slight amendment?
Through the chair, so if I could suggest that we would include in the report, and it very much aligns with looking at the jurisdictional scan and like a review of the pilot project being suggested by St. Thomas, and we can provide some details on if there's any differences or implications, and we could make that part of this report coming forward.
All right, thank you. I will go to Councillor Rahman and just to keep it within the amendment as much as possible.
Thank you, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Lewis is next. Please go ahead, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I want to say, first of all, thanks to Councillor Pribble for bringing this forward. I did indeed work on this quite extensively in the last term of council. Was happy to see it reduced from September 1st to Victoria Day down to November 1st to April 30th. I will say even then, that was a bit of a compromise for me. I thought that we could easily go December 1st to March 31st, but that did not carry the day. However, we continue to hear about these parking challenges that residents are facing. On-street parking is something that is already existing. It requires no new construction work, doesn't require driveway widenings, those sorts of things. We know that it does act as a bit of passive traffic calming in some instances. And while I recognize the importance of snow clearing, I think the mayor's amendment is a really good idea in terms of maintain a registration system, because we still need evenings where we are going to have to say to people, you cannot park on the road. We are not issuing permits. Ms. Scher's army of snowplows will be out clearing our roads. However, there are many times during the winter when that is not the case, and residents would not be impeding anyone by being parked on the road. I would really like to see us pursue this. I also think Councillor Rahman's suggestion around the driveway apron parking is very much worth a look. It's something I'd like to explore doing a pilot on as well. I know right now we're asking for staff to report back. But again, and for all the reasons that Councillor Rahman mentioned, the multi-generational families, the encouragement to develop ARUs, well, renters need places to park too. And while we are at PEC, at least somewhere on the deferred matters list, looking at what we allow for driveway widths and widening driveways, that's going to be a while, and that's a policy change that will happen or not when the time comes. But we have this system in place. And to simply remove the 15 pass limit should be a fairly straightforward software change. Should be something that we can implement very easily and would allow families a little bit more convenience. While I appreciate that families can rotate cars and register different license plates, people work shift work. People come and leave at different times of the day. It's not always the most convenient for them to have to rotate cars around because somebody has hit their 15 pass limit. And I know that by and large, most Londoners do not use their full 15 days. But it is something where some folks do hit it. And I suspect it's becoming an increasingly common feature as we see these multi-generational families, young adults staying at home longer, renters moving into basement units, those kind of things. I think both of these are excellent suggestions, fully support them. With that, I hope that we will still be considering perhaps a shorter time period around the parking ban itself, perhaps a November 15th to March 31st, something like that. I know that I have stood in snow in Remembrance Days, but often it has not been an accumulation that's required snow clearing. It's been a couple centimeters. So I do think there's an outstanding problem in the city. I think this is a way to do it. I think we have to look at this from a common sense approach from a resident's perspective. And I think that this would do that. So very supportive of both of these options.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll take those comments as the motion as amended comments. Looking for the amendment. Any other comments on the amendment? Okay. Oh, Councillor Pelosa, sorry. I will go back to you. You have 3 minutes and 22 seconds on the motion, on the amendment, please.
Sorry, I'll be as concise as possible. Just more comments through you to staff, following up on Councillor Rahman's comments about the driveway skirt parking. I know this came up last term of council too. When that aspect of the report comes back, looking to make sure that staff encapsulate in consideration giving to boulevard damage. Lord knows I've seen people trying to park on the driveway skirt and they hit a tree and then they back it up and hit the neighbor's tree on the boulevard and then tear up the grass too, trying to speed away because they're terrible drivers. Waste pickup considerations as people park on their driveway skirt, but it's winter, where they put their waste receptacles because they'll put them in the middle of the road, they'll put them on the snowbanks where staff is not safe to climb the snowbank to retrieve it. And then concerns about people having a lack of awareness of the size of their vehicle and blocking the sidewalks. And snow clearing vehicles potentially hitting it, having more of a risk management aspect and potential implication. And I'm not sure how adequate our after hours bylaw staff is, that when people do decide to park on the skirt at night, when they do impede part of the sidewalk or the roadway, that we actually have staff on call to go out and address it versus someone just getting around to it the next day when they come in. And of course the person has moved and it's just an ongoing issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Trussell, go ahead. On the amendment, please. You want to go for as amended? Yeah. Okay. Last call.
Yes, so I just want to,
Just a second, Councillor. You want to speak to the motion as amended or the amendment?
I want to speak to the whole thing.
Okay, let's call the question for the amendment, and then I'll go right to you for the motion as amended. I'll go to you first. Any other comments, questions? Last call. Okay, let's call the question for the amendment.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Councillor Trussell, please go ahead. You got 5 minutes.
Thank you very much through the chair. Just sitting here listening to this discussion, I'm wondering how is this going to work on streets that are neighborhood connector streets that become the subject of pretty significant densification going from 1 unit to 4 units. Is this, how is this idea of allowing people to have these permits, much less park in the boulevard, how's that going to work if it's 4 units?
Thank you, Councillor. So to staff, the question for neighborhood connector streets, or I guess just between the different types of streets that we'll have this, I'll go to Mr. Mathers.
Those are very good questions. So we're going to want to look to see how St. Thomas has addressed that as far as their overnight parking and their pilot project that they have. But those are all things that we need to be able to look at as part of bringing forward that report to committee.
Thank you, Councillor.
Is that something through the chair that would be looked at through the jurisdiction of this committee with respect to this matter? Or is this something that the planning committee really should look at with respect to the change of definition that's coming up with respect to stacked townhouses?
Thank you, Councillor. I will go to staff on that one. Does this overlap with any other committees, planning environment specifically?
So we'll work closely with the clerk just to make sure that whatever we bring back is appropriate for this committee. If we have to break off a section to go directly to PEC, then we can do that as well, but we'll work with the clerk to ensure we're coming to the correct committee.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, looking for members of committee, visiting members, online. Okay, I'm just going to make some remarks, fully in support of this motion. I appreciate the council bringing this forward. I'm really interested to see what comes next, so thank you. Okay, let's call the question.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Okay, we have our next item on the items for direction. That's 4.3, also brought by Councillor Pribble. That's in with respect to the business licensing bylaw as it relates to short-term rental accommodations. I do have a delegation request. I'm looking for a D. Lenting, apologies if I botched this, Lentinier Manuel. You? Okay, thank you. Please come up to the microphone. I'm going to ask committee for a motion to allow the delegate to speak for 5 minutes. Moved by Councillor Cuddy, seconded by Councillor Trusso. Let's call the question.
Okay, so
Just a second, we need to vote on that, and then I'll let you know.
Mayor Morgan? Marking the mayor absent. Closing the vote, the motion carries 4-0.
Okay. Please state your name for the record, and then I'll tell you when you have 5 minutes. I'll just put my hand up and you can go.
I'm Denise Lantine Mignot.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, could you not hear? Okay. I'm Denise Lantine Mignot.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
So I live next door to a home that is an unlicensed short-term accommodation. My family has lived here for 27 years. First 24 were wonderful. Great neighbors, lots of really good people in the neighborhood. For the past 3 years, it is and continues to be absolutely horrendous. And this summer has been the worst so far. I'm speaking for virtually all of the neighbors that I know personally within a 2-block radius. The owner freely continues to run this property solely as a business for the past 3 years. He does not live there. It is like living next to a hotel with no one at the front desk. Checkout time is 11 a.m. Cleaning lady arrives at 11:15 a.m. The next group of guests starts checking in at 3 p.m. almost every single day. Last night was a late check-in. They didn't get there till 9 because the cars are from Wisconsin this week. We are subjected to large groups of people, often multiple families, many times in excess of 20 and 30 people who treat it purely as a party home. There have been endless parking violations, noise complaints, and disruption to all of our lives. We cannot use our own backyards many days and evenings because of the noise and the chaos. There is very loud music, screaming children, endless pool parties, profanity, late-night voices, and endless parties. Last summer, there were even strippers present at a bachelorette party during the summer. Many of our neighbors cannot sleep due to the noise and the stress. I'm a nurse. I work from home for one of my jobs. There's many times that I'm not able to do my home job because it's too noisy inside my own house to work the phone lines and do my job properly. We have lost our privacy because of people always looking over the fences and hovering at property lines. We've been subjected to smoke detectors that have gone off for hours, to a fire on the back deck with no fire extinguisher available, and recently to people flying drones at 11 o'clock at night. We hear all this noise with our windows closed, our air conditioning on, and inside music to drown out theirs. I work from home legitimately. I have a legitimate business. This is not what a short-term accommodation should do to other people. We at times fear for our own safety. We cannot approach or talk to the guests. We've been advised not to do so. They've laughed at neighbors who've asked them nicely to be quiet. All of this has been incredibly time-consuming and a very exhausting process of sending emails, filing complaints, and waiting on hold for long periods of time on an almost daily basis. We have to rely on the city to help us. We follow all the protocols that we are asked to do when reporting complaints. I personally have had a great deal of empathy from staff and council. London Police have been great. Bylaw enforcement officers have been great. Jerry Purble has been great. Anyone I've talked to. But everyone's hands are tied. Enforcement can take a long time, and we have to endure many hours and even days of unruly and disrespectful guests and behaviors. We do understand that there's many competing and higher priority situations going on at any one time. We actually feel guilty when we have to call the police for these things. What we think is there needs to be something better. Fines need to be heavier, they need to be enforceable, and they need to be swifter. Loopholes need to be closed up. There's no need to have a full-time Airbnb or short-term accommodation in a single-family residential neighborhood. There needs to be limits on the number of people that can actually stay at any such place, even if they are a licensed STA. We fully support this motion by Councillor Jerry Purble to review the STA bylaw and to push for recommendations and amendments in a timely fashion. As a neighborhood, we are happy to work with you, and we would like to see rules and enforcement that put the neighborhood ahead of the interests of the business owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Looking to Councillor Purble to move a motion, and I'm looking for a seconder.
Yes, I would like to move the motion at this time. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Purble, seconded by Councillor Cuddy. Okay, if you just update your e-scribe, you will see it there. Okay, look. Questions, comments from members of committee first. Councillor Trusso.
Well, through the chair, first of all, thank you so much to the delegates who have come. I mean, I read about this, I hear about it, but seeing you here in our chambers, talking to us personally, it really hits home. You should not have to live like this. And I really want to thank Councillor Purble for bringing this forward. I've felt from the beginning that while we have a serviceable bylaw here, without stronger enforcement with teeth, it could around the edges be flouted. And we have a situation here showing how that can happen. It's clear to me, having followed this, that the owner of this property understands that the penalties are small enough that it's a minor cost of doing business, if that. So I think we need to we need to redo this bylaw. I'm in full support of what Councillor Purble is looking for. However, I'm still not satisfied that we're doing everything we can to protect your interest in being able to have quiet and peaceful enjoyment of your premises. And I don't place any blame here. I don't blame the police. I don't blame bylaw. I certainly don't blame Councillor Purble. You pointed out that they've all tried to be helpful. But there's a structural, institutional problem here that we need to address. And I guess I'd like to ask the solicitor, is there something that we could do in the short run to shut this down through an injunction or a declaration of a nuisance that would go beyond adding some incremental amount of damages to the property bill? Can we do something to provide some needed relief for these residents? And I would put that in the form of a question.
Thank you, Councillor. I will go to the city solicitors to see any response to that question. Please go ahead.
Through the chair, legal advice can be provided at council, and I'll prepare some advice for council on that matter.
Thank you, Ms. Butland. Go ahead, Councillor Trusso.
Yes, and that's fine with me. I would be prepared to make that motion again at council if that's necessary. Maybe I'm making it now. Does the solicitor want me to bring this up again at council, or would you be able to take the questions that I'm asking and come back to council with a report?
Thank you, Councillor. You can bring any question you want to council, but I am going to go to the solicitor to see if he would be required to ask that again, or if you can get that question and that information from this question.
Through the chair, legal will be prepared to respond to this question at council.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you, and I really appreciate that. And if legal has any questions about the legal provisions in terms of declaring the house a nuisance that I'm referring to, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. But once again, thank you so much to my colleague for bringing this forward, because we have instances, nothing as bad as this, but we do have instances of nuisance houses in other wards. So you really should be commended for coming out and talking to us. Thank you again.
Thank you, Counselor. I have Counselor Pribble, Cuddy, and myself on the list. Because it is Counselor Pribble's motion, you are next. Do you want to speak next, or do you want to be last? I'll be last. Okay, I'm going to move you to last. You haven't put your hand up. Counselor Rahman, I don't believe you. Oh, you did. Okay. Counselor Cuddy, you're next. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. And you know, I don't want to repeat everything that Counselor Trosso just said, and said it so well, I might add. But I do want to thank the delegation for coming. And I know exactly, because Counselor Pribble and I have talked about this before, so I know exactly what you've experienced and the disrespect. And that's what it is. It's disrespect that you've endured. So thank you for coming and telling us. And I want to thank, just like Counselor Trosso said, I want to thank Counselor Pribble for bringing this, because we have discussed this before, and it's been an ongoing issue. And thank you for bringing this forward, and I look forward to supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, I have myself next on the list. I'm not going to hand it over because I'm just going to make some comments, no changes. First things first, thank you for coming to the delegate, for speaking to us and putting your story out there. It really helps us understand the situation, especially case by case, and it helps us get the support that we need to move through this. I do believe we do have the support already, especially on this committee, because I'm going to be supporting this motion in full, which I'm going to go to Counselor Pribble. Thank you very much for bringing this. When I saw this, I thought, yes, indeed, we definitely need to look at this. From what I heard from the delegate, you know, how does this property seem to not be owner occupied when you said that the owner is not there? And with our licensing program, it has to be owner occupied. I know there's some areas where the owner cannot be there for a while, but it does sound like this is really, truly a secondary property specifically for short-term rental accommodation. So speaking to the structural institutional problems that Counselor Trosso has brought up, and speaking to the fees, the fines, and the loopholes that need to be closed up, I do believe we do have some loopholes that need to be closed up. I don't know how they look. I know this is a complicated process. I know we're dealing with platform providers that are not necessarily operating inside Canada, and they have their own control, and it's hard to get, I guess, those providers to work with us on certain things. But I do appreciate you bringing this forward. I appreciate the motion, and I'm hoping that we can find a way to close these loopholes. Maybe it's increasing the fees or the fines. Maybe it's better engagement. Maybe it's just a whole other licensing regime. I don't know how it's going to look, but I think this is a good way forward. So thank you again to Counselor Pribble. I think this is very suiting and exactly what we need to see. I know you have a lot of these issues in your ward, so I'm not surprised that you brought this, but I appreciate that. I'll leave my comments there. I have next on the list Deputy Mayor Lewis, then I'll go to Counselor Pribble. And, okay, Counselor Rahman will be after the Deputy Mayor, then I will go to Counselor Pribble. So go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll be brief. This will have my support at Council too. I also appreciate the delegates coming to speak to us. It is a problem in wards across the city. We all have those problem short-term rental units. And what's very clear to me is that the penalties and licensing costs right now are not deterrents to bad behavior. And so we do have to, I think, very seriously look at the fines and penalties around non-compliance. What else can be done to ensure that? Of course, we need to make sure that we are collecting the MAT as well. But I think the biggest issue here is around the enforcement piece and making sure that I think it was Councillor Trussow that said that we have some teeth that we can bite into these problems with. And clearly the fines right now are not sufficient to deter bad behavior. They need to be increased. And while we certainly can't, you know, as we were just talking about on-street parking, well, we can't prohibit anyone. On-street parking is first come, first serve. I do think that there are reasonable grounds to put some requirements around how these units are advertised as well, in terms of the number of parking spaces people can expect, et cetera. So I am fully supportive of doing a review on this. And I will be fully supportive of some much more punitive fines because clearly when they can make it up in a weekend of one rental and have the rest of the year to make a profit, that's not enough deterrent. So thank you, Councillor Pribble. Thank you to our delegates, and this will have my support.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, next, Councillor Rahman, please go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, and once again, my thanks to Councillor Pribble and my thanks to the community for coming out and speaking to us today. I know that this is of significant concern and recognize that you've taken the time to come and speak to us about it. And I will say, I did hear from my residents as well on this item, and I did share with Councillor Pribble some amended language around minimum distancing. So I just wanted to talk about that point in particular. So I want to thank our staff who did some quick digging to look at what other jurisdictions had around minimum distancing. This would be, can you have multiple of the short-term rentals in one area, or how many can you have, and where are there those types of restrictions? So there are some cities that have those in place already, not in Ontario as far as I understand, but elsewhere in Richmond, BC, and in Montreal. And part of the concern from residents of my ward has been that there is a short-term rental on a street, on a court that has very few houses, and then you have the possibility of potentially more coming, or the concern from residents that there could be more, and what does that mean from a quality of life perspective, as well as more maybe added to the street, and so on and so forth. So I do think that there are some things that we need to look at. We also talked about parking a little bit, and that's also included in this motion to review how parking is impacted with having short-term rentals within the area, and what kind of accommodations we need for those. And right now, for instance, residents are finding that there are parking issues, and by the time they're reported, those people are gone, and then the next renters are there, and so it's difficult to police as well. So again, my appreciation, I think this is a really important discussion. We're learning as we're going on this as well, like many other cities across Ontario and elsewhere. So I think best practices is really helpful for us to continue to review and dig into. And of course, this will have my support at council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. All right, while you were speaking, you kind of just refreshed my memory. I do have one question I want to ask for staff. Is it okay if I do that before I go to you? Okay. Just the one area that I just wanted to look at was the time frame to report back, which is in Q1 2026. Now, we're looking for a pretty substantial report from what I see here in the motion. I just wanted to just ensure that staff would be able to comfortably or be able to bring this report back during that time period.
Through the chair, absolutely. I think this very much aligns with a lot of what we're saying. This is a great opportunity to be able to review what was originally approved in 2022 and be able to see if we can make some course corrections. And one reason why we absolutely can put more resources to this, and this is just something that was announced today, if you haven't seen this yet, is that London has received federal funding of over $1 million to be able to support our enforcement of short-term rentals. So we'll be applying some of those resources to be able to get this done as quickly as possible, and very much think this complements the work that we're already doing.
Thank you, Mr. Mathers. Okay, Councillor Pribble, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm just going to start with the last comment, actually, Chair, because of your question. I just would like to make this comment. Yes, I would like to things done as soon as possible. Having said that, there are certain things right now at this moment at the provincial level, both if I look at the ministry and especially Ontario Restaurant Hotel Motel Association, and I think that it would be good if it's kind of coordinated. So even if the staff were to come back to us next month, I think that would be faster than the other two bodies, and I think it would be great. And yes, if the other bodies come up forward, and if it can be instead of the March, January 2026, fantastic. But at least with this deadline, we will be able to cover the summer season before next year. So I just want to make that comment. Thank you, staff, and as always, earlier, if it's earlier, it's great. But on the other hand, it does need to make a sense in the big picture, because this we are dealing with for the kind of what I call globally and for long term. Again, thank you for coming, and more thank you for your patience. Even though the delegate stated it, I just want to say, and I want to thank our staff as well. Our enforcement staff have been addressing this issue. They are there, they go there, and things are being addressed. This specific license, I'll go back to the main motion, but this specific license, city, we have not renewed the license. There was an appeal was lost. As we know, that's a public knowledge. It's still ongoing. This is a perfect example why when the Schedule 21 was introduced, passed by the last council, it's not a bad schedule. It is positive. The problem is that it's dealing with the players that want to play by the rules of the game. And it doesn't, unfortunately, address the ones that they don't, the bad actors. And this is the thing, and I think they already heard it from my colleagues, that this needs to be revisited, so we are not at the point when operators of these facilities, when they say the fines, they take it as cost of doing business. When it comes to the rules and regulation, they don't obey by them. So this is, as I said, thank you very much for what I heard from my colleagues. I certainly hope this will pass at the council as well. And I would like to also thank Councilor Trosso, because you already asked the question which I was going to ask the legal department, because either way, even if it's January, February, March, this comes back, we are addressing summer season next year at the earliest, or we should be committing to that. Having said that, we need to address this earlier, especially the issues we have currently. So thank you, legal, for your response, and I'll be very much looking forward to your update at the council. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, I'm just going to do one last call for questions or comments, members or visiting members. Online? Okay, let's call the question.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 4-0.
Okay, the next item we have here is communication from myself and Councillor Frank. That's item 4.4 on the protection of animals left unattended in motor vehicles. So I will, actually, I need to relieve my seat. Looking for a mover. Okay, moved by Councillor Cuddy. I will second that. Okay, and the motion that we have, this one is the exact same, but there is a time for the report back on this motion. And the only thing that has changed is by the end of Q2 2026, it should be up in eScribe for you to check. And before I go to members of committee, because Councillor Frank is ready to speak on this, I just wanted to confer with the members if it's okay to just go out of order and allow a visiting member to speak first. So if anybody has any objections, raise your hand. Okay. Councillor Frank, you got 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, and I really appreciate the mover and seconder for getting on the floor, as I'm not a member of this committee. This issue was brought forward to me by members of Ward 11, residents who brought forward stories and examples of issues where they had seen pets left in parked vehicles and the distress that it caused, as well as seeing other municipalities that have bylaws that address this issue. And in further discussion with staff and trying to find a path forward to try and address this meaningfully, it does appear that this is a provincial issue mostly, except that our municipality, including police and bylaw and animal control, which are municipally funded, have to respond to these calls, even though they are best left for our provincial animal response team. I'm not really sure what their name is, but I know staff will know what their official titles are. And the issue, again, being with, in London, we do have examples of animals being left in these cars. So this year to date, as of mid-July, there are 60 calls to LPS to respond to animals being left in cars, and last year, by the end of the year, there's 114. And this creates an issue for us as municipal council because those are municipal resources going out to these calls, and it does have a cost for our staff team and our various departments. And I would like to be able to both address this issue more proactively, figure out whose responsibility it is to respond to these calls, and if we are sending members of LPS or the animal control folks, that we are able to recoup those costs, but without some sort of bylaw, we are not able to charge a penalty to folks who have been found guilty or found leaving their pets in hot vehicles. And of course, that all being said, I would also like to see no animals being left in cars because, as we know, especially with the heat wave that's going on right now, it can quickly become a deathly situation in a matter of minutes. And I would really like to avoid having that happen as much as possible. And again, having staff bring back some information about how we can address this. So I look forward for your support.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, I am looking for members of committee who want to speak, questions, remarks. Councillor Trossel, go ahead.
Let me start by saying thank you very much for bringing this forward. I think we do have a hole. We do have a gaping hole in the enforcement mechanism here. And there is one thing that I do want to disagree with you on, and I'm just going to put this out there. This is squarely a municipal issue as well as a provincial issue. Because when you look at the powers of single-tier municipalities, there is a head of power that says, it doesn't say much, it says animals. So this would be under that. So we clearly have jurisdiction to deal with this. I did want to make sure that this came back at a time certain. I think that's happening. I can't imagine that we'd be able to get this on the books for the rest of the heat season, but it will be in time for the next heat season. So that's okay. What I would like to say, though, in all due respect to the councillors who brought this forward, I think it would be useful, rather than to just say, okay, staff, go figure this out. I think it would be useful for the council, and maybe we could work on tweaking the language before the council meeting, to be a little bit more directive in terms of what it is we're looking for. I mean, I don't want a generic report back from staff in 6 months saying, we've looked at this and we've looked at this. I want a bylaw. I want to amend the bylaw because it's going to increase the amount of enforcement that we can do. And I've spoken to people in parking lots, and some of the things I hear are like, well, I'll only be a minute. There's that one. Yeah, I talked to you about that at the bike lane the other day. Yeah, I'll only be a minute. And then the other one that's very famous is my dog would rather come with me and stay in the car than have to stay at home. People understand that it's wrong to leave an animal in a hot car. And they do it, and they justify it. And there has to be repercussions. I think there are probably other bylaws that staff will be able to look at and incorporate without having to do too much work. And I also want to point out that it would be a good idea. I'm not going to make an amendment right now. I just want the makers of the motion to think about this. Let's run this past, we do have an advisory committee still that has an animal working group, and I would like to run this by them because there's probably some expertise on that committee, people who have looked at it. Over the years, the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, in all likelihood, dealt with this issue. This is not the first time this is coming up. I want to make it as easy for staff as possible in terms of the drafting and in terms of the environmental scan, and we probably have some other resources that we could be looking at. So let's do that. I'm going to leave it with the makers of the motion to think about how they want to proceed prior to the council meeting, so I won't be making any changes today, but I would like to see this be a little bit more directive and focused. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. If you're looking to include the advisory committee for the animal welfare, you can make a motion if you want to. I would take that as a friendly amendment.
It's not animal welfare anymore. They were abolished. It's
Right.
successor.
Right, that's right. And there's no friendly amendments. Okay. Well, we can speak to that offline, but I'd be okay to hear that now.
Yes, I'd like this to go to the ESCAC working group that is intended to be the successor to the former committee. And members of that committee will be aware personally of some of the history of this. So I would like to, and I don't think that has to happen and get a report back. That could happen while this is going to staff. I think that advisory committee can work together with staff. So I would make that motion.
Okay, so from the conversation and this direction, would you be able to include the advisory committee?
Through the chair, I think it would be a very important part of this, of even developing the report and going back to that advisory committee to be able to get some feedback. As highlighted, it's likely this isn't the first time that folks have looked at this, so there might be, I'm foreseeing a lot of benefit of bringing this back to that advisory committee to be able to get some feedback. So that would be part of us crafting this report and bringing it back to council.
Okay, and just to confirm, sorry, back one last to staff, you don't need that in the language for this motion.
I'll take I think that's something we would do anyways, so no, I wouldn't require that to be able to do that work.
Okay, thank you. And I'm getting thumbs up from Councilor Tresso. Okay. I have the deputy mayor online. So before I go to the deputy mayor, just last call for members of committee. Okay. Deputy Mayor Lewis, please go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
I'm not going to use 5 minutes. I'm just going to say I support the intent of the mover and seconder and Councillor Frank's letter on this. I agree with Councillor Trussow in terms of people rationalize why, even though they know they shouldn't do it. So if there's something that we can do to allow MLEOs to issue fines or something along that line, I'm certainly open to supporting that. We'll see what staff comes back with. I would say recommendations may include a draft bylaw. It may just be something around educational awareness campaigns. I noted that the Humane Society referenced the Ontario SPCA campaign. So I don't want to bylaw for the sake of bylawing, but I'm not opposed to a bylaw either. I think that there's lots of discussion to be had around this. But I think the intent is good, and I'll just leave it at that for now.
Thank you. And the motion for everybody who's commented, because I did hear a new municipal bylaw be included and not precluding anything else from the last comments, but the motion does read, including but not limited to amendments or a new municipal bylaw. Okay, so I'm going to make one last call for anybody. Okay, I'll say I obviously support this motion. Thank you. And let's call the question.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 4-0.
Okay, the next item we have is 4.5, a motion from myself and Councilor Frank as well. This one's on the enhancement to dog licensing and control, the control bylaw, and this is a focus on public safety risk dogs. So just looking at committee for a mover, moved by Councilor Cuddy, I will second that. Let's put that on the floor. And looking at committee again, if I can look to Councilor Frank to read this one in. So anybody who opposes the visiting member to be able to speak first, please raise your hand. Okay. Councilor Frank, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. And I just want to confirm that the one on the floor is the updated one with the deadline for Q3 of 2026?
That's correct. This one has an updated deadline as well. I don't have it in front of me. Yes, this one is by the end of Q3 2026. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, much appreciated. And again, so this has been brought forward by a variety of residents. There was a petition circulated as well as residents forwarding it to my email and having conversations with me about this issue, as many residents in Ward 11, I'm sure across the city, love walking their dogs and bringing them to off-leash dog parks. And this is in regards to trying to address dangerous or potentially dangerous behavior dogs. Again, not being breed specific, as there's demonstration that doesn't necessarily work and is a little bit showing a bias when you're trying to do breed-specific laws. This is looking at behavior-specific issues and having staff bring back a report about what kind of controls and education and enhancement and enforcement measures we have to try and address this behavior. I've heard many stories from residents, and as well as if you were able to see the petition, where unfortunately dogs have been injured or killed by other dogs, and not a whole lot happens afterwards. So this would demonstrate what London is able to do within our licensing control bylaw, as well as what resource implications that would have. So this is just trying to get more information to make better informed decisions about dangerous dogs.
Thank you. Okay, looking to members of committee. Councilor Trosso, go ahead.
I would simply make the same comment about the working group of the advisory committee on this. I presume the answer would be the same, but I'll just leave it at that if you're shaking your head.
Okay, and for the record, I'm going to go to Mr. Mathers.
Through the chair, yes, that would be our same background that we'd want to do before we bring something forward to committee.
Thank you. Councilor? Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, I'll make one. I appreciate this work, obviously. Working with Councilor Frank on this is something that I wanted to bring myself. I did have members of my community reach out, and they did tell me about specific cases about how they lost their dog against another dog, an aggressive dog that had a past. So I do believe that this is something that is very well suited for what we need to do. In the end, there are no bad dogs and there are no bad owners, but this is onuses on the ownership of a dog. We need to ensure that people know and people see that there could be consequences for having a dangerous dog out in the open. I believe that a $150 fine and a muzzle order for a dog that has previously killed another dog is just not sufficient, and it's not one that will protect other dogs and other dog owners' family. I myself have a dog, and I could not imagine if we lost our little Hampton. So I'm very appreciative of this. I'm going to fully support this. I like how we have the time on that as well. I see the Deputy Mayor's hand is up, so I'm going to go to him next, and then I'll go to Councillor Rahman after that. So go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. And again, just like I said on the last one, I appreciate the good intent here. I will, caveat that or put an asterisk on it. And I've expressed before the value I place on change.org petitions, which is not very high, even though some of the signatories may have, good intentions. Others are just signing them as keyboard activism and sometimes not even from within our jurisdiction. So while I don't place a lot of weight on the petition piece, I do place some weight on the intent and the information shared by the councillors in their communication on the agenda. I appreciate the input from the Humane Society as well. And I think that there has been mistakes made or assumptions made in the past around breed bans rather than around dog behaviors. And I'm a firm believer that there's no such thing as really a bad dog. It's about owners who aren't training their dogs properly and not following the proper measures for the breed that they happen to be the human parent of. So I do appreciate the intent. I'm supportive of getting some more information. I will add that, of course, for me, there will be considerations around practicalities and impacts. I've had one person say, "Oh, you should do what Toronto does and do a heat map." I'll be honest, I'm not interested in doing a heat map. People move, information changes. It's staff resource complicated. I'm not interested in doing that, but I do think, and I agree with what you said, Chair, $150 fine and a muzzle order, absolutely not sufficient. There does have to be higher consequences than that. And I think that this opens the door to us imposing some of those higher consequences. So I am happy to get more information and see what comes back as options for us.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, Councillor Rahman, you're next. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, and through you, and first to yourself and the mover, Councillor Frank, for this piece of communication. I really appreciate it. I think that, again, it's great for us to have the discussion here at committee on these matters, and I do know that there's a lot of public interest on this as well. One of the concerns I have, though, is jurisdiction, and specifically around how the province has oversight over this matter and how our municipal bylaw is right now very complementary to that. I think I would love to see an amendment to this to read something like the mayor write a letter to the Solicitor General asking for updated language around dangerous dogs and potentially dangerous dogs to be defined in the Act, as well as a lot of what my understanding is around some of the issues that residents face is that when something does happen, in order for a peace officer to take action, there's a lot of back and forth and time concerns. So it may take, a year for something to be enacted so that a dangerous animal can be dealt with. So to me, again, that's more of a provincial issue when it comes to the ability to move quickly and be responsive on issues such as this. And I know that the Act gives our municipal bylaw officers the jurisdiction within to be able to maneuver within the Act and to be able to do something. However, I do see the investigative time and the ability to move this along faster probably is more of a provincial issue than a municipal issue, that we have to get some of the language in that particular act updated in order for it to have more teeth. So I'm not sure if that's something I can do, well, obviously as a non-member of this committee, I'd have to do it at council, but I do think that we should try on different fronts to address this. And again, although we can do something locally, I also think it's important to also put the onus back on the province where necessary to make sure that they're being responsive and that they're addressing these concerns as they can.
Thank you, Councillor. I did hear the councillor make some comments about an amendment. I know the mayor is not online at the moment, but I don't know if you work with him and bring something to council, or if someone is willing to move something for you. Okay, Councillor Cuddy.
Chair, thank you, and I thank Councillor Robin for that. I'll move that amendment. Thank you.
Well, I need a seconder, and you can speak to it, Councillor Trusso, when we get it. But I'm looking for a seconder on the amendment. And just, if you can, the amendment, the language, from what I heard, was to have the mayor communicate with the province with respect to this matter.
Chair, I think I have it down, that the mayor write a letter to the Solicitor General to suggest we do something province-wide. Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion here. I'm just going to read it out. So that the motion be amended to add a new part as follows. The mayor be requested to write a letter to the Solicitor General with respect to this matter to suggest changes to provincial legislation related to dangerous dogs and public safety. All right, before I go to you, I do have a mover. I do not have a seconder. No seconder. Okay, I will. I'm not necessarily in support. I'm going to second it to get it on the floor. I want to hear what has to be said. Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Trousseau.
Can I speak to the motion?
Yes, you can. Then I'll go to Councillor Trousseau. Go ahead.
I think it's a very simple, and by the way, I thank Councillor Rahman for bringing it forward. I think it's very simple. That's not a huge ask. It's just bringing attention to a problem that we've all identified in this room today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Trousseau, go ahead.
I think that the mayor can write a letter. I would rather see the mayor's political capital with the province be more focused. And I think we need to ask the question, do we have a basis of jurisdiction in the City of London under the Municipal Act such that we could proceed anyway? And the answer to that, I believe, and I'm not going to give you legal advice, we have the solicitor here, but again, I want to refer to the section of the Municipal Act that lists the heads of municipal jurisdiction, which includes animals. And by including the word animals, period, and not further limiting that, the intention of the legislature, and again, I can be told I'm wrong, is that this should be broadly construed. Now, there's not a conflict. The very fact that there is concurrent jurisdiction between the city and the province does not necessarily mean that there's a conflict. Because there's a further section that talks about conflicts. If we tried to say, you have to do something that the provincial law says you can't do, or vice versa, then we would have a conflict. We don't have a conflict here because it's supplemental. And while, have the mayor write another letter, but I just think it's not a good use of the mayor's political capital, and he could do that anyway. But I'll be voting against this portion of it only to underline the broad authority that Ontario municipalities have over animal measures. And we talk about this in a variety of different contexts, but may I ask the solicitor, what does the inclusion of the word, quote, animals as one of those separate heads mean?
Thank you, Councillor. You can. I will go to the city solicitor for that.
And I would ask at this time that a motion be made to go in camera to receive legal advice.
Okay. We heard the city solicitor. I will look to committee. To move in camera?
If she wishes.
Okay, I need a seconder. I have a seconder. Councillor Pribble. All right, just bear with us. Please refresh your e-scribes. Okay. Okay, looking at comments, questions about moving into camera? Okay, let's call the question.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 3-1.
Okay, that means we're going to go into closed session. So I would ask members who are sitting in the gallery if you can depart. Okay, we are back into the public session. I'm going to look to Councillor Pribble to report out from the in-camera motion, or in-camera session.
Thank you, Chair, and I would like to report that we did receive a legal advice on the point 4.5 that we went into the closed session. Thank you. And yes, the progress has been made.
Thank you. Okay. Where we left off, and that was section 4.5, looking to members of committee visit. Oh, Councillor Rahman, you have 2 minutes 22. Go ahead.
Thank you. So on the amendment, the Dog Owner Liability Act, which is a provincial act, it has a definition section in the act, but does not have a definition around dangerous dogs or potentially dangerous dogs. And from my understanding of the communication that's in front of us today, that is what is being discussed and recommended. We see jurisdictions like the City of Toronto and City of Waterloo, they have went ahead and added those definitions, and then based on those definitions, they have included some other measures, and that includes signage, it includes things like a heat map, et cetera. What I'm saying is when we start to see this happen in multiple jurisdictions, it says to me that that's probably something that we should do across the province. And this idea of political capital, the mayor writing a letter is part of our mechanism for communicating a decision of council. So it's not political capital per se, it's about us as a council exercising our ability to speak to government, to ask government to make changes. And so I have no issue with us asking government to make a change that is beneficial for the entire province. And I also, it speaks to me about some of the concerns around, well, if we were to make this kind of a classification, we would only have enforcement and jurisdiction in our own boundary. So if it became something that was provincially part of an act, that would mean that that would carry from one jurisdiction to another, which again, with people's mobility, with their ability to move across the province, that's actually an important thing. If they have a dangerous animal, we want to not just have application in one jurisdiction, we want to have application across the province. So I hope that my colleagues will consider this from the perspective of provincial advocacy and advocacy to the Solicitor General, because I do see that's where this is really important to ensure that we have both municipal as well as provincial coverage on this definition as we move forward.
Thank you, Councillor. I have Councillor Cuddy next. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. And once again, I'd like to thank Councillor Rahman for bringing this one forward. It's a really small ask, Chair. It's not much. And, you know, I appreciate the political capital thing, but I don't think anybody's going to think this is political capital. It's just an ask. And, you know, it might move the needle. Who knows? In all likelihood, it probably will. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I have Councillor Frank next. Go ahead.
Thank you. And though I can't vote at this committee, I will support that amendment at council should it pass or not pass at this committee. A lot of the work that I've been doing recently, and especially with these 2 report backs, are due to the fact that the province is not doing the best job of maintaining animal welfare. A lot of these issues stem from chronic underfunding of their provincial animal response services. Some of the discussion I have was specifically in regards to, I believe there's one person who's the provincial designate, and I might turn to staff and ask a question because I don't know the names of these officers, but they pretty much service all of southwestern Ontario, and I believe they go all the way up to the Collingwood area. So we are unable to get the services we need in a responsive manner of time from the province, and so some of these are looking at ways we can still address it within our jurisdictional boundaries to make Londoners safe. But I agree with Councillor Rahman and Councillor Cuddy. This is a province-wide issue, so I'd be happy to support sending this letter to the appropriate person at the province as well as other requests. But through the chair, I might just ask if you could turn to staff and if they could explain what I was trying to explain about the provincial coverage, because I think I did a terrible job and they're going to actually know what the terms are. And if they could explain perhaps the lack of access we have to those provincial reps for the work that they do.
Thank you, Councillor. This committee is looking for an explanation of the coverage from the provincial side. I don't know who to look for. Mr. Mathias, please go ahead.
Through the chair, so that these are the officers that that are directly responsible for that Dog Owners Liability Act. I do understand that it's very few individuals across the province. I don't have the exact numbers here for you today, but it is very, very restricted, and they have a lot on their portfolio as well. So we just know that they are very difficult to be able to allow for that timely reaction that I think a lot of people see as necessary.
Thank you. Counselor.
Thank you, yes, and just one final follow-up on that. When I was discussing the other bylaw about the hot pets, the appropriate person to call was a provincial rep, but by the time they drove from Toronto or Windsor to drive to London to go break a dog out of a car, the dog would be dead. So the people end up calling London representatives to respond to those calls. So again, both of these reports are mostly just because what can we do locally to address London issues, but they are provincial issues. So again, appreciate my colleagues for their amendment.
Thank you. Councilor Trusso, you have 2 minutes 41. Go ahead.
It may seem that I'm being picky. It's been suggested. It's not a big deal. Might move the needle. But that's not the point. And that's why I need to reiterate why I'm raising my objection to this letter coming up with respect to this motion. There are a lot of things that the province has fallen down on. There are a lot of things that they are not doing that they should be doing. But the fact of the matter is we have a bylaw. We have a request to get more information on a municipal bylaw that is squarely within the jurisdiction of this city. And I do not want a side conversation that even remotely suggests that there's a conflict, because there's not. The city has the jurisdiction to do exactly what's being asked here, and the province has its jurisdiction to do what it does. And if we are going to introduce this sort of failure of the province to do everything they need to do every time something comes up, we could be adding on a lot of requests for letters. So I don't really mind if the mayor wants to write a letter or not. And maybe that should come up as a separate motion. In fact, if it came up as a separate motion, I'm not sure I'd even worry about it. But I am a little worried about it when it comes up as an amendment to an otherwise valid request for the expansion of the exercise of already existing municipal jurisdiction. So in this context, in terms of this letter being tied to this motion, I can't support it. And and by saying that, I'm not saying that the province is doing a great job. I just want that to be clear. The province is falling down in a lot of areas when it comes to animal welfare. And I'm not even going to start making the list right now, because it's not germane to this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Other questions, comments? Online? Okay, let's call the question for the amendment.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 3-1.
Okay, motion as amended. Comments, questions? Last call. Okay, calling the question.
Could you call them separate? Could you call them?
I can, just a second. Okay, just give us a second, because we're going to add the motion to add a new part, and then we will call them second, or we'll call them separate. Okay, committee, we are putting up part 1 first, which is the original motion. Actually, part 1 doesn't have as amended, we have the original one. The one is the original without the amendment. Calling the question.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 4-0.
Okay, now we'll put up the second part of the motion.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 3-1.
Okay, thank you. That is item 4.5 fully dispersed. Okay, we have two more. We have an item from Councillor Cuddy, and then we have the poll request for 2.7 from the consent. So look to Councillor Cuddy to put a motion on the floor. Get a seconder.
Thank you, Chair. I'll put the motion on. I think I have a seconder in Councillor Pribble.
I have confirmation for the seconder. Okay, it's up. I will go to you first, Councillor Cuddy.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll speak very briefly on this because I'll probably circle back on it. Earlier this summer, I had a call, Friday night, about 6 o'clock from a resident who said, "Councillor, I think we've got 12 people living in the house next to me." So I immediately went out and found out that there were in fact 12 people living there, but the house was actually rented to 2 people. And we see that all over the city, Chair. It's not just isolated to my ward or to Councillor McAllister's ward or or Deputy Mayor Lewis' ward. But the problem I had, Chair, was finding out who owned the house so I could inform them that they had breached a bylaw. And on a Friday night, I'm not going to call up my good friend Wade Jeffries and complain to him about a problem that's not going to get solved that night. It's something I could do myself, Chair. But it took me hours. It took me till 9 o'clock at night interviewing the residents to find out who actually owned the house. It turned out to be some guy in Etobicoke who I called up and informed. And in fact, he hadn't rented to 12 people, he'd rented to 2 people. And they had sublet to 8 or 10 other people. And I informed him of the bylaw infraction, and he had to get them out. And by Sunday night, he had 6 of them out of the house, and we resolved the problem, and I didn't have to call bylaw about it. Because, Chair, it's something that I could handle myself, and I was elected to do this job. That's what I was elected to do, Chair. I was elected to go out and service my constituents by solving their problems, and not by having to involve bylaw all the time. And by the way, bylaw does a great job. Mr. Kurtolik did a wonderful job. Ms. Pfeiffer is well into the job. And we have got great staff like Mr. Jeffries, who I'm glad to see here today. But it's something that I could do myself and other councillors can do for them. And again, Chair, this isn't isolated to my ward. We all suffer from it. You, yourself, in Ward 13. And I know Councillor Trosso in Ward 6 has similar problems. So, Chair, and I'm going to summarize because I know other people want to speak about this, but this is an opportunity for us to move forward, and it dovetails very nicely off of the short-term rental accommodations, I might add, that Councillor Pribble put forward. This is an opportunity for us to press forward, to review our bylaws on long-term accommodations and how we can improve on what we have now in our bylaws for rentals. And so I look forward to my colleagues supporting this, and I look forward to this going forward to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I will look to other members of the committee. Councillor Trosso, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm happy to support this. I do think, though, when this comes back, and I don't want to get too far ahead, we're not voting on the merits, we're just voting on getting the report back. But my understanding is we can regulate the number of bedrooms, but we can't regulate the number of occupants. Is that correct to the staff through the chair?
Thank you. I will go to staff. Mr. Jeffries, go ahead.
Through the chair, partly correct on that. Through the property standards bylaw, you can regulate how many people can reside per square footage of habitable space. So that's the bylaw we would look at when addressing a situation like that.
Thank you. Counselor?
Okay, I'm very much in favor of requiring the owner to post something. But having said that, I have to say, there should also be, and this goes beyond your motion, you know where I'm going with this, there should be a grade like there is with the restaurant, and that would require further inspection. So I'm not going to make that amendment. You like it? Yeah. I'll make the amendment then. Why not? As long as you're posting something visibly, and I assume that what your intention is that this would be visible either from the street or through a place where there's public access, so a member of the public could, without having to go inside or trespass, they'd be able to see it. I think it's a great idea. Personally, I'd rather see it apply to more units than the ones that are under the bylaw right now, but that's all we can do. But yeah, thank you very much for bringing this forward. And maybe we could have different colors.
Okay, thank you. So, I heard an amendment. What is it?
Chair, there must be a full moon tonight because Councillor Trossa and I've just agreed about on everything today. So I'm really happy to take his amendment and maybe second it if you don't mind, because I think it's a great idea. So Councillor Trossa, do you want to flesh that out?
Yes, and in addition, said signage should include, and this is where I need some help, information about whether or not the property and the units in the property are in compliance with municipal standards. Or is that too big? I'm looking at Mr. Mathers for help here, or Mr. Jeffries.
I will go to staff to help us with that language.
Through the chair, just trying to interpret that. So is the thought that it would just be confirming that the license is in good standing? Is that part of it, or were you looking at something beyond what we already consider as part of the license regime?
Yes, it's beyond. The question of whether or not the property and the units in the property are in compliance with the licensing requirements is one issue that I think is very important. Whether they're in compliance with the occupancy standards is also something that can be determined qualitatively. Without having to go out and do a separate inspection each time someone has to put up a sign, is there an administratively feasible way of saying, and there are no other code violations? Or maybe that would be the way of doing it in a less burdensome way. And I'm thinking out loud because we're a committee.
Thank you, Counselor.
And I don't want to burden your staff with another requirement, because you're going to have to start printing signs, and that could get messy. Because what if people in the unit don't want the sign up?
Just a second, Counselor.
Don't.
So the staff are just drafting something up, so just give us a quick second. Once I get through this, I'll get to you, Counselor Pribble. Okay, I'm going to read what we have drafted up here. So that the motion be amended to include a new part as follows. that civic administration be directed to report back with the potential of including signage, which could include information about whether or not the property and the units in the property are in compliance with municipal standards. Okay, I have questions that are coming up. So Councillor Rahman, you're after Councillor Pribble. This is on the amendment. So I'm just going to look for the mover and the seconder if that language is okay. So I'm getting a yes and a yes. Okay. Councillor Pribble? Actually, before I go to you, sorry. Councillor Trusso, are you finished on your questioning and what you wanted to add to the motion? Because we left off with you.
Yes.
Okay. He said yes on the record. Councillor Pribble, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair to the staff. When I hear this are in compliance, I think that the vision and the proposal from the two councillors, I think it is positive. Having said that, if we introduce something like this, we gotta have in place enforcement and all the backup. So on the front, yes, we are covered, but can we actually fulfill this? Is this kind of really going very fast, and how will we be able to keep up with this? Do we have the infrastructure, the manpower to do this? I would like, not just on my question, even kind of complete feedback. So again, it's great in writing, but are we able to enforce it? Are we able to fulfill this?
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so Councillor is looking for resources and if we are able to, legally speaking. So for the first part on the resourcing, I'll go to Mr. Mathers.
Through the chair, so as part of the report back, we would go highlight any kind of requirements that would come out of what we're suggesting as far as additional staffing. I think it might be helpful for Mr. Jeffrey to just highlight what the work that we do as part of any application and then any kind of recertification that's required at this time. So there is like a MLEO walkthrough, there is a fire inspector that walks through when that initial license is granted. So this could just be like providing the details and as part of this notice provisions if it's something the council wants to proceed with. But I'll let Mr. Jeffrey just speak to what the current practice is.
Thank you, Mr. Mathers. Mr. Jeffries, please go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. As Mr. Mathers mentioned, part of our process for a residential rental license application, when it's submitted, is to schedule a inspection by a municipal law enforcement officer as well as a fire prevention inspector. They will attend the property to ensure compliance with all regulating legislation that we handle. So if there are any deficiencies or if we see anything of unregular activity there, we will put the property owner on notice at that time. Other than that, it will be complaint-based from a tenant moving forward.
Thank you. Councilor.
Just a quick follow-up. If I compare it, let's say, to the restaurants, they are usually, depending on the establishment, but let's say quarterly revisited. So it's really valid, so the people, the attendees, the customers, the patrons, they see it and it's on continuing basis. But this, if we award this at the beginning during the licensing process, you go by, you see it, and they're in compliance, but this could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, and they could be totally out of compliance. So actually, wouldn't we be protecting the house owner? Because she might not be in compliance, but people will say, oh, they got a certificate. Because there's not going to be continuation, for example, like in the restaurants, regular visits and inspections.
Thank you. Mr. Mathers.
Through the chair, very valid point. It's not something that's built into the current bylaw, so it looks like you're looking at some type of requirements during renewal of the license, whether it's on an annual basis or every 2 years, to be able to ensure that this is happening. That's not something that is within the current bylaw, but if it's something you'd like us to explore, we'd happy to explore that and bring that back.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you, Councillor. I have Councillor Rahman next. Councillor Cuddy, you did speak, so I'm just going to visiting members, and then I'll go back to you. I have myself on the list, but I'm just going to hold off. Councillor Rahman, go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, and thanks to Councillor Pribble, because I think he addressed some of the questions I had and points I wanted to make on this. So with respect to grading or providing some sort of higher level of standard by way of signage, so that somebody can be aware of the fact that they're in a rental license or they're in a rental that is of good quality, et cetera. I hear the concerns. The one concern I would have, though, is I don't want something that we're trying to put in place to then impact or to impact someone's reason for licensing. So we know that there are a fair amount of people that do not license their units, of which they are supposed to. And we want to actually encourage more people to go out and get a residential license if they're using their place as a rental. In other jurisdictions right now, and I'll point to Brampton, for instance, they're undergoing a big pilot project to actually increase the amount of people that are including their properties as rentals. And I think there's a lot of strength in that. And I agree with the Councillor Cuddy's original motion, of which he's saying, yeah, let's get some good information on who is actually renting out these places. I'm fully supportive of that. And I'm fully supportive of us taking more of an activity to try to get more areas of the city better licensed. I think in this case, we could be doing ourselves a disservice because in a sense, we are establishing something beyond the criteria by which we already have the rental license. To get that license, you already have to be in compliance with our fire safety requirements, et cetera, and the number of units, et cetera. So I do think that we are covering off a lot of jurisdiction. One thing I will bring into the discussion, though, is the ability to really update some sort of, and we have it within our address search. You can actually search and see which ones are in compliance right now, our rentals, but also having a good renter's guide. And I know that that's something other municipalities are looking at to implement those guides, to be able to say that. I think having something electronic is probably easier for us to maintain and to assist with versus having it at people's addresses with color coding, et cetera. I think that's probably putting more onus. But I guess I'll await whatever decisions made at the committee and at council to see where we head with this.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to go to Councillor Cuddy.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Rahman. That's interesting, and I'll take that into consideration. I just wanted to reference a comment that Councillor Pribble had made that we may be stretched too far, and was passed on to Mr. Mathers and to Mr. Jeffries, and I'm not suggesting for a moment, Chair, that we all become deputies and of bylaw as councillors, and we go out and do the enforcement ourselves. That's not part of our job. But what part of our job, Chair, is to go out and service our constituents. And that may be quasi-bylaw where we go in and do it. And I do it now, and I probably shouldn't. I know I'm pushing the limits, but that's what I do for my constituents because we all know that bylaw is stretched thin and too far. We're understaffed and overworked, and we understand that. We say that every day. So I think we need to take more of the onus on ourselves, Chair, and do some of the heavy lifting.
Thank you, Councillor. I have Councillor Pribble next. I do want to put some remarks. I'm going to say them from the chair. So I've single-handedly shut down parties of 300 people plus, myself doing exactly what you're doing. And I do like the direction that you're going. I do have some concern with respect to privacy. And I don't know if legally we can move within some of the realms that I see highlighted in your original motion. I do want to see something changed. I do want to see enforcement beefed up a little bit. But I just want to ensure that we do it in a way that we are able to within the requirements that we have set before us. I do have a secondary motion from your original motion that I'm not going to say right now because we're on the amendment, but I will bring it back to the motion as amended when I speak to that. I want to support this, but I can't support the language as it is now. Sorry, the amendment I can support. So I guess I'll keep my comments on the amendment. But just to, I guess, go to staff the signage, the potential of including signage. So I'm taking this as signage on the property itself, on the front. So I just wanted to go to staff and see if that is the correct interpretation.
Through the chair, so as part of the discussion today and just our previous discussions with Councillor Cuddy, it's my understanding that it is a signage that would be visible from the road.
Okay, thank you. So I'll leave my comments there. I am going to attempt to put on a secondary motion when we get to the main one. It's with the same intent. It just gives ourselves the ability to move within our legal requirements and what we're able to do in a way to move forward and not get held up with some areas that I see might be an issue. But I'm going to speak to that when I get to that, and I will hand over the chair to Councillor Pribble when I do. So next I have Councillor Pribble, so please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm very much in support of what was original motion. The amendment, I'm not. In compliance, as I said, it will protect potentially this in the month, weeks, whatever it is, time frame. This doesn't have to be in compliance, but this person will still have outside their house, they are in compliance. So I will not support it because I don't believe that we have the strategies, the manpower to do this, let's say, for example, as I used restaurants. So I will not be supporting it. I'm very much in support of the original. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Frank next. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I just had a question through you to staff, and I just wanted to clarify, given some of the comments from my esteemed colleagues. Bylaw enforcement is entirely done by staff, and councillors should not be attending these incidents, whether it's a party or too many units in a building. I just want to get that on the record, given we have members of the public here, and I want to make sure that we are following the provincial MOU regulations. So through the chair to staff, could we just get a bit of clarification for that for the record?
Thank you, Councillor. I believe you're correct, but I will go to staff.
Through the chair. So we're always here to support any councillor that's having concerns and issues. We're here to be able to provide that bylaw support and any MAT enforcement, of course, doesn't limit people having conversations, but we are happy to be there and support you and want people to be safe as possible when you're out and having these, which could sometimes be very heated conversations.
Thank you. I believe that was the remark I got from staff when I told them about the last one. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, yes. And I just want to make sure that I understand and appreciate my colleagues' desire to completely support their residents, but I just want to note that that is staff's responsibility, and if we are hoping to have more bylaw officers attending so that the time, doesn't take as long, then we should be providing them more funding to hire more MLEOs and not attending. Just want to remind everyone, but I appreciate the work you're doing in the community. I appreciate the motion that's coming forward. Just want to flag that.
Thank you, Councillor. I believe that's it for this amendment. Okay, Councillor Cuddy, you have...
Last comment.
You have 1 minute. You can...
Well, I won't even take 1 minute. Chair, I should have mentioned this earlier, but I did pass this by. Not only did Mr. Mathers help me write it, but I passed it by Ms. Pollitt, so it has passed through legal and got a green light.
Thank you. Any additional comments, questions? Councillor Trosso, you have 2 minutes, 25. Go ahead.
I'm going to take 15 seconds. We're not enacting what we're going to do. We're laying out what's going to be in the staff report that comes back to us. So if you find anything that's not feasible, you'll be able to say, we really can't do this because of this reason or that reason. So I think a lot of the concerns that I've heard from people saying they don't want to support the amendment will take care of themselves when we get your staff report back.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay. I think that's all the questions or comments. Let's call the question for the amendment. The amendment first.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 3-1.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is the motion as amended. Speakers list. I have none, last call. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to put a motion on. I'm going to hand over the chair to Councillor Pribble.
I have the chair and I recognize Councillor Ferreira.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so like I said, I'm in support of this direction. I just have a little bit of concerns with the motion. And the main one would be the requirement to display the name and contact number on the front of the property. So I have many issues similar to Councillor Cuddy, similar to Councillor Trusso, similar to rentals. And those issues are usually many, but confined within select few numbers of properties. The majority of the properties that I have in my ward don't have any issues. The ones that do have issues are recurring issues. The same property owners, especially with student rentals, students come in, there may be issues because they don't know what's going on. Maybe it's a lack of communication from the property owner. They leave, a new batch comes in, and we see the similar issues coming from the same property. So that leads me to believe that it's not the students, it is the property owner. Now, the issue that I have is there's not that many properties when you look at the whole. There's a select few, and I don't want to be overly punitive of properties that don't necessarily have these issues. So when I see to display the name and the contact number, this is, as I see it, London Large. It's every single rental unit with a residential unit rental license that's 5 units or less to be in requirement of this. I do want to see extra transparency, but I'm worried that we're going to get a staff report back that says this is not something we can do. I wasn't able to speak with legal. I do believe Councillor Cuddy has spoke with legal already, but I didn't get a chance to do that. So I assume that this is going to be a recommendation from legal when asked the question to go into camera. But to just ask those privacy-related questions on if we can or can't do that. Is that something that we would be able to do, or would we find issues with that on a report back?
Sorry, the question through the councillor to the staff.
So through the chair, I think the intent is that that would be addressed in the report back that's been requested by this motion. So the legal advice on any privacy concerns would be addressed at that point.
Councillor?
Thank you, Chair, or Presiding Officer. Okay, so if we were to bring this through and we were to find that legally we wouldn't be able to do that, would you be able to give us other recommendations for transparency in this regard? Would we need to make any amendments to this motion for the transparency component, or consideration of measures that would improve the availability of key rental property information? Do we need to put that language in, or is this language enough for staff to come back with those items in that report?
Staff to answer, please.
Through the chair, the way that I'm reading this is that you're really looking at overall, not just those specific items, but anything that's going to be able to provide more transparency, more information to the public. So if this was passed, then we would be looking at really anything that we could be able to provide, and then allow like a laundry list for council to say what they feel would be appropriate to share and not to share, as long as it's something that's legally appropriate to be able to show to the public and provide to the public.
Councillor?
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And my last question would be, with respect to issues of property standards or issues with occupancy and recurring properties that see similar issues happening again and again, would this report be able to capture anything there? Or do I need to make some language for that? Because I really think that those are very similar, and I just want to ensure that if we're doing this work, we are capturing this. Because my main issues that I have in my near-campus neighborhoods are recurring issues with the same property with different cycles of student bodies coming through.
Staff?
Through the chair, seems like as far as us being able to look at those matters, that is definitely something that we could look at. I don't feel, just reading this language, that that's something that's incorporated into this language. It's more about that transparency piece, and I think it would be helpful if you're looking at having that as an additional piece of work that and to provide some very much clarity to us and to committee and council. That would be beneficial to provide some additional wording.
Thank you.
Councillor?
So I would look to the mover and the seconder I would like to make an amendment to add that piece in. From what I get from staff, they would still be able to find areas of transparency, even if they were to find some of the issues that I've highlighted here. So we'll still get some recommendations back, which I like, so I'm okay on that aspect. But I do want to know if we can include the recurring properties. If we have identified a property that has similar issues recur year over year, if we can look into that and find some extra enforcement measures, some progressive enforcement on properties that we see having similar issues or just issues with the neighborhood, and they happen again and again. They're frequent, not just one-offs.
Actually, I consider this as a friendly.
No.
Asking for the seconder for the motion that was proposed now by Councilor Ferreira.
I'm a little confused exactly what Councilor Ferreira is asking to change, because it goes without saying that when we get the staff report back, there's not going to be a recommendation that we do something that would be a violation of privacy law. And keep in mind that this is a registered business, and there is going to be an entity that has to say, I own this. And in many cases, these are numbered corporations where there's the additional challenge. Staff is not going to send us back a report that recommends doing something that's violative of privacy. And most certainly, if they think that this is too overreaching, they're going to suggest an alternative. So I think that your concern is sort of built into the original motion, and I don't think there's anything that would be added through an amendment. And in terms of whether there are recurring violations, that's one additional, data point that staff would have to look at. You want to include that? Fine. But at this point, I think we've given staff enough indication of the kind of report that we'd like to get back, from which we can then make a decision. So I'm prepared to just support the motion as it's been amended, knowing that staff is going to send us back something that's well thought out and thoughtful, and within the range of what they can feasibly do without additional resources.
Councilor Joseph, thank you for your comments, even though nothing is on the floor right now, but thank you for your feedback. I would like to go back to Councilor Ferreira to clarify.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Just to answer both, I did have two concerns, so maybe I should have articulated them more separately. I did have the one on the privacy issue. I don't like the language about display the name, contact phone number. I think just transparency or enhancing transparency would be a better language. However, from what I heard from staff, you can still bring us forward that if you find issues legally with this as well. So that's why I'll be supporting this now. Now, if I get a recommendation coming back that says this is what you're going to do, I'm not going to support that. That was the first one. The second one was the recurring issues. And it was, because I do see that there's a lot of overlap here with providing more transparency and recurring issues, because the people who are telling me this have issues contacting the owners of these properties. So that's why I thought the recurring issues should be incorporated into this. My question was to staff was, do you need this language? If you don't need this language, then I'd be happy to not put the language in, and I'd like to see it incorporated within the report. So we are in agreement slightly, I guess, there. My question really is, do I need to make some changes to the language? And if not, then I'm happy to keep it the way it is, and I will support this as it is right now. I would like to expect to see that recurring standards and occupancy issues come up if you have identified properties. And I will say again, if I see a recommendation when everything's said and done, come back from staff to display their name or contact phone number, I won't be supporting it. So just to confirm with staff, and I'll leave it right there. Do you need the language in the motion?
And going to the staff?
Through the chair, so just so that I very much understand, are you looking at having people that have recurring issues on their property, having information shared differently about that property, or are you looking at having different mechanisms within the bylaw of how we treat people that have gone through and have had more than one or two or three different changes? If that's the case, and you're looking at trying to to come up with the mechanisms to be able to have a different type of enforcement regime for people that have multiple different issues on their site, then that I'd think that needs some different language. But if you're looking at just as far as the transparency or the information you're sharing being different for people who have multiple versus maybe if it's just a first time issue, then that I think we can incorporate into the actual report that we've already been suggested.
Councillor?
Thank you. I guess I'm more of in a discovery mode right now, so maybe the language is not necessarily needed, but I do know that you have identified certain properties, so I would leave that with you on the properties that you've identified and to see any type of progressive enforcement or ideas that you might want to include on that. So I don't want to be making any amendments on the fly right now, but if we're within like a more discovery phase of report, then I would wait for that, but I would like to see that kind of pointed out, because I do want to see a priority on these recurring issues happening at the same properties year over year over year.
So Councillor, the way I understand it is that you're not making no amendments, it stays as is, and we are going to move to the main motion.
As of right now, yeah, I'm not going to be making any amendments.
Okay, I'm returning the chair to you. There's no one on the list. Thanks.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Now, Councillor Pribble. Last call. Members, visiting members, call the question. That's motion as amended. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, committee, and apologies for me pressing the microphone. That is against the council procedural bylaw during a vote. I won't do that again. Okay, that is 4.6 fully dispersed. Thank you, Councillor Cuddy. Now we are on the last consent item. Oh, and Councillor Rahman is leaving, so thank you for joining us today. It's item 2.7, the Thames Pool update. Okay, so that's the last one. We do have an added for this. We do have a staff recommendation, and then we have an added. So before anything, I'm going to look to committee, members of committee, to see if you want to put a motion on the floor, or if you want to defer to our visiting member, Councillor Frank, who has a motion herself that she was looking to have one of us move. So if anybody opposes me going to Councillor Frank, please let me know. Okay, looking for someone to put Councillor Frank's motion on the floor. Councillor Pribble, seconded by Councillor Cuddy. And just to committee, we will have an inclusion of the staff report being received in addition to the motion by Councillor Frank. So just wait a second to update your e-scribe. And once we get that, I'm going to look to Councillor Frank to speak to the motion. Okay, it's up. Looking at Councillor Frank. Councillor, please go ahead.
Thank you, and I want to thank staff for bringing forward this report. Obviously, for folks who are in the Old South area, it might not necessarily be the best news, but I think that many people are not surprised that there's not an immediately perfect location for an indoor pool that would serve the same catchment area. That being said, the motion I was hoping to seek direction from committee and from council on is just to assess the feasibility of having the Basil Grover Park location for a future multi-use facility. As we can see in the report, we've already have a couple queued up, so Central and Northwest require multi-use facilities. But looking into the Parks and Rec master plan and looking to the future for the possibility of having an indoor pool location at Basil Grover Park, it's large enough for multi-use facility. And since we're moving away from outdoor facilities, which the other locations, the other 5 parks that are listed, might be able to fit an outdoor pool, but given we are not currently in the process of building outdoor pools, Basil Grover Park kind of became the only option that is a city-owned asset that would have space for a pool and other amenities. So hoping to seek direction just to have staff look at that. It's definitely not tying our hands, but I wanted to highlight that that one would at least be vaguely within the catchment area of Old South within that 4 kilometer radius. You can see on page 5 the map that kind of outlines the distribution of pools and outdoor pools. And you can definitely see that there are some gaps across the city. And the right process would be asking staff to look at that in the Parks and Rec master plan, which then any of those identified projects could eventually go into the DC master plan so that we are able to collect development charges for future facilities. So just hoping for your support to look at that location. And again, looking forward to seeing in a separate future report what we'll have at the Thames Park for replacement. That's a separate process and have been working with staff and residents on that. But this was trying to address the pool. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, looking for members of committee for questions or remarks. Councillor Trosso, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
This is just a brief question, and I'll just throw it out there. Under 2.3 feasibility criteria for indoor pool location, in the staff report, ID number 1, Basil Grover Park, is already listed. So what I'm unclear about, and maybe the proponent can clarify this, what are you asking for besides what's already in there?
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to go to Councillor Frank for that one.
Sure, and I might turn it over to staff to help clarify, but again, this report was a report back from staff saying here are 6 potential locations that could potentially have a pool in the future, and then really the bulk of this report is take no further action. So my motion is just specifically highlighting out of these locations, the only one that would fit a multi-use facility, which actually requires 4 acres, I believe. That immediately eliminates the other 5 options, and therefore I'm just asking staff in a year from now when they bring back the PRMP to look at Basil Grover. So but perhaps through the chair we could go to staff to provide any clarification because I don't want to speak on their behalf.
I can. Thank you, Councillor. Ms. Smith, please go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair, so when we initially looked at that and we looked at the criteria, we looked at, we were directed to look at the feasibility of an indoor pool. So at that time, we looked at what are the requirements and the hectares required for an indoor pool only. So in conversation with this, and as you know, aligned with our Parks and Rec master plan, and we don't see this build happening in any other cities, and ourselves included, our last build, East Lyons Community Center, for example, we are directed basically to build a multi-use facility and add an indoor pool to it. You just don't want to build a standalone indoor pool. So in conversation with Councillor Frank about this and looking at the hectares required and the size required, that really of the 6 properties that we identified, Basil Grover Park was the only one that would have potentially sufficient acreage to build a multi-use facility, including an indoor pool. So something that similarly looked like East Lyons Community Center.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Councillor Trosso, go ahead.
But if it's already on the list, I'm still not clear what Councillor Frank's amendment is changing from this. Or is it saying we're going to eliminate the other ones? And I'm honestly confused here. And I guess what I want to understand from the councillor and or staff is what's the difference between the staff report and what the councillor is suggesting? Because I still don't see it.
Thank you. I will go to Ms. Smith.
Sorry, and thank you through the chair. So our report was just an information report. So to provide you with some information and to say at the time we are in the midst of doing our 5-year update to the Parks and Rec master plan, this will help us look at our population, our demographics, and we will come with an update. So Councillor Frank is saying, that's great, let's do that. We know, or we think with the way the city's growing, that we're going to need additional spaces, multi-use space, and additional spaces for indoor pools. So right now we have potentially identified the Northwest as another multi-use facility and indoor pool. We've identified the central area, and we have some capital to support those. And now she's saying, when we come back in Q1 2026 with our updated demographics, we will look at where the need is, potential need for a future indoor pool. And if there is one, we would like to consider Basil Grover Park for that space directly, specifically that park.
Thank you. Counselor, go ahead.
Instead of the other ones or along with the other ones?
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Instead, so we will look at one, we're already looking at the Northwest, we're already doing Central, so the next location for a multi-use facility and indoor pool would be Basil Grover Park.
Thank you. Counselor? Okay. I have some questions. Counselor Frank. Okay, go ahead, Counselor Frank.
Thank you. I just want to follow up. To be clear, the main reason for my motion is just because the other parks are too small to have a multi-use facility, and that we aren't building any any facilities that aren't multi-use. So I'm just trying to get right to the point, which is there's a gap. You can see it on the map on page 5. Staff are going to be doing the work of the Parks and Rec Master Plan. Please look at Basil Grover. I would personally love actually one of the other locations, but they're too small. So I just wanted clarity on that. Basil Grover is not my preferred location. It is the only location that staff have identified that could have a multi-use facility.
Thank you. Counselor, I have a question. Where does Basil Grover Park reside? Which ward is it in?
Thank you, and through the chair, Basil Grover Park, I know it's near my house. It is in Ward 10, which is at the corner of Commissioners and Warncliffe.
Thank you. I have some other questions, but I did want to follow up on that one. I'm just going to ask them from the chair. I don't have any amendments. So I guess the first one was, like I see that we are focusing on a multi-use facility with a pool and with other amenities included. I just wanted to go to staff and ask, we don't build outdoor pools. I'll start there. Do we build outdoor pools still?
So the Parks and Rec Master Plan does not suggest or recommend that we build outdoor pools, nor do any municipalities really in Ontario build outdoor pools anymore. The efficiency, cost effectiveness of building a pool for 8 weeks is just not something that is recommended.
Thank you. And I guess in addition to that, what would be the reason we would choose a multi-use facility with a pool and other amenities in comparison with a facility with just a pool indoor?
Thank you, and through the chair, multi-use facilities generally have what we would call anchor amenities. Those anchor amenities historically are generally indoor pools or arena ice pads. And multi-use generally would include gymnasiums and multi-purpose activity spaces included as part of that build.
Thank you. And I guess when it comes to cost efficiencies, I would assume that a multi-use facility is more efficient with respect to cost than a single-use facility.
Thank you, and through the chair, it provides more opportunities for the community. When we build an indoor facility like a community center or pool, the ratio for that is 1 to 65,000. So on average, up to 65,000 or more would be using that facility. So you want as many people to benefit from recreation and sport activities. And while maybe some are watching swim lessons, there's other opportunities for other family members or caregivers to participate in. So when you look at that ratio for an indoor facility, it's more efficient, effective, and reach more impact and outcomes to the community and the neighborhood when you think of 1 to 65,000 Londoners who would access this facility.
Thank you. So I do see that I have 3 areas in my ward that I would love to see a pool or a multi-use facility. But I also see that the multi-use facility, which is a better use of our funds to be efficient, needs a minimum of 4 acres of land, I believe, was set. So that leaves all of mine out, unless I want to just have a pool, which I don't think is very efficient for the taxpayer, very prudent for what the taxpayer would like us to do. So because of that, I'm going to support that motion because Basil Grover Park seems to be the only area that is able to accommodate such a facility. I would ask, in addition to that, what time frame would we expect something to come back? And if you can crystal ball it, and I know this is a long ask, so just tell me if you can't, when would we expect shovels in the ground? And I guess on top of that, to make it harder, how much do you think it would cost?
So through the chair, we already are working on, and as you know, we have the Northwest as our, potentially our 7th indoor pool. Then we have Central, potentially our 8th indoor pool. We have about, I want to say for each, about $40 million in capital. And as we identified in the report, just down the street, Guelph and Kitchener, both projects have come in with kind of similar at about 100 million. So we have those two projects that we're looking at. And then to add this one, so where we're going, in January, we'll come back with our updated demographics. Then at that time, we will be laying out where we're looking for, where pools we should build our new facilities, what are the location of those, and then probably through the next multi-year budget, we will identify what are the financial needs for that. And in addition to this, the work we're doing now with the Parks and Rec Master Plan will also update the 2026 DC background study, which will help us support these projects.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. With that, I guess I will be supporting this motion. Like I said, I'd love to have it at Meredith Park or Wellington Valley. Well, not Meredith Park, but if it doesn't fit in any of mine and it's a good use of the taxpayer funds, I'm excited for it. So I appreciate it. You're going to see my support on it. Councilor Frank. Members of committee, visiting members, anybody? Last call. Online. Okay, let's call the question. Hold on, we're going to cancel the vote. Sorry. Councilor Trusso, go ahead.
Okay. I don't want to be making the decision today on which facility we're approving. I would rather not do that until the fuller report comes back to us. Which is why I have not been convinced why I should support this motion. It's not clear to me, by not supporting the motion today, it would still be on the table later on when all that other information comes back, right? Or are we saying, no, we're never going to do this?
Thank you, Councilor. From what I understand, we are not making a decision today. However, I do see that we don't really have too many options, but we are not making a decision today. We're looking for a report back for feasibility, and then we will receive recommendations from there. But I'm going to go to Mr. McGonigal or Ms. Smith.
Thank you, and through the chair, that's correct. We're waiting for the master plan to be done to identify which geographic locations of the city require future indoor pools. When those geographic areas are identified and should they align with these sections, then Basil Grover would be somewhere that we would assess the feasibility of. So those is a bit of the order of operations.
Thank you. Councilor.
So just so I'm clear, by voting no on the councilor's motion, I'm not precluding that from ultimately becoming the successful candidate. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Would you like us to call the question separately so you can get the received report? Or call the...
No, I would be voting no
on the mic.
Based on what I heard, I would be voting no on the motion.
And we also have an added receipt of the report. Would you like me to split those up?
Yes, please.
Okay, we can do that. Councilor Pribble, go ahead.
Based on what I heard from the staff, based on the advantages of the multifunctional facility, based on our Parks and Recreation Plan, it is clear that the best, the motion that's proposed by Councilor Frank is really the one to move forward. So I really don't think why should we extend it to the other ones, because it was very clear, the other ones, we are not looking at the location, south, north, east, west, we are looking at the size of the parcel. And there's only one that fits our vision, our strategic plan, so I will be supporting Councillor Frank's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the committee, Councillor Truscott, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm just having a difficult time, and I think part of it, the motion was just didn't make, you were shaking your head when Councillor Pribble was speaking. Was that because you agree with what he said?
Thank you, Councillor. I will go to staff for that one.
Thank you, and through your chair, I was agreeing, this is the only site that fits the size of it. So I think I'm trying to be helpful. Perhaps it's directing us as staff to consider this site. So when and if we come back with the information, it may allow us to do a little more deep dive into this site as a potential site for a future multi-use facility and pool. Instead of just coming back with some information and laying it in front of you, it may allow us to go to the next step. But this is a district park. We want to look at what are the other amenities there. We may do some, a little bit more work to make sure that this is a site that potentially could be feasible if this is the direction council wants us to go forward with. So it's putting a little more teeth into our information report to say, if this is where we want to go, let's take an immediate look, because maybe when we consider the feasibility, there's something there that precludes it. And because we've only just done a very high-level look with those 4 criteria, we haven't done a deeper dive into this area. So we could go forward. If this is looking positive, it doesn't preclude us from doing a little bit deeper dive into this specific park.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Okay, thank you very much. That's helpful, and I'm sorry to be holding this up, but I want to, I don't think, I'm sorry to be holding this up, but I did need to hear that, so I can support this, but you satisfied what my concerns were. Thank you very much.
Council, you don't need to be sorry to hold us up. You have valid, legitimate questions you can ask. No, that's okay. I just don't hesitate to ask your questions. Now, that is the end of my speakers list, comments and questions for the last item that we pulled. So I'm going to call the question. I'm calling them separately still.
No, not for me.
Well, we're going to do them separately because the clerk's already got them ready to go separately. So first question, calling the question.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 4-0.
Okay.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 4-0.
That concludes items for direction. Next on the list is deferred matters, additional business. I have none. Next on the list is adjournment. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Cuddy, seconded by Councillor Pribble. And vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.